say that, again,
sure,
even if it's a joke,
sure.
I mean, I'm sure Bill Burr, when he fires off this and that.
Well, I mean, it's possible it happened and he just heard it from like the mom or something.
That's true.
I don't think he's coming up with that on his own. Actually, I can guarantee that's not the case.
It'd be adorable, though.
Yeah, well, you'd be like, all right, well, this kid's a phenom. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Stokastic.com MLB Deeper Dive. Little 8-game action today. One step closer to the NFL season. Baseball grinds on. Still some big prize pools out there and a lot to talk about. Some good pitchers at the top of the slate. No doubt about that. Dave Loughran at Lafayette_D on Twitter, joined by Eric Lindquist at Eric Lindquist, breaking it all down with me. What's up, brother? How you feeling?
Feeling good. I'm with you. I'm kind of just another day. I feel like we've been in Groundhog's Day for about 2 months since the NBA got over. It's been a little bit of a grind, but NFL is so close. It's so close. Now that you're inside of that month mark, you start having your casual buddies who are just like, hey, when are we drafting? Putting everything together for that. It gets to be a little bit of therapeutic just knowing that the light is at the end of the tunnel now.
That's what it's just a weird time of year. You know what I mean? Baseball season's long. Hey, this is a great slate. Like there's a lot to talk about on this slate. It's a great slate. But after the first preseason week starts in earnest, not the Hall of Fame game, but like the first preseason week of football starts, and you actually see some starters out there and then some other guys, like some rookies, you know, I don't know how closely you followed it, but like Tank Dell a few days ago just looked outstanding. You know, he's a third-round rookie. You go, oh, maybe there's something here. And a lot of other players, you know, they look pretty good. Hey, this team could be all right. Other players look like garbage, and they're starters, and they're young. But I'm saying, like, you start to get that real itch again. Even myself, who's been doing drafts and football content for a while now, that's when it really starts, and you go, like, we're actually here. I'm going to wake up in a few weeks. It's going to feel like tomorrow. And because, you know, right? Tell me if I'm wrong. Week 1, Sunday morning, is just it's Christmas for adults.
It is. It's
like it's our Christmas.
It's Christmas, and then it's also one of those things where all my buddies who don't really follow any other sport besides the NFL, everybody's ecstatic. You get together, you kick it. You know, we just got our house. I'm moving in tomorrow. I'm going to be in my new setup already, and like we're setting up this big TV in the garage. We're hanging up a bunch of like sport flags and helmets and everything else. And just imagining the garage door opening with my friends flooding in after I get off of Live Before Lock. Like, that's what keeps me going right now. That's what's keeping me energized. Just the thought of come and break bread with me. Or by that, I mean, take shots and watch football and get just demolished for a couple hours.
It's the best. It is the best.
Good stuff.
It really is. But I'll just be... There's nothing worse than it's like 1:30 in the afternoon on the East Coast, and I have people texting me or tweeting at me like I'm sweating my own lineups already, you know, in semi-tilt mode already. And then they start tilting to me, and I can't handle it. I'm not a nervous person. I consider myself pretty stoic for the most part. But man, that anxiety and nervousness and frustration when people start flooding you, like, listen, I don't need to hear it from anybody. I'm already feeling this way. Stop telling me, you know, making it. It's the worst. Unless you're having a good day, which in NFL is few and far between.
I think I wouldn't say the word is looking forward to, because I'm not looking forward to this, and it's obviously a bad thing. But we haven't had that big cataclysmic preseason injury yet. Like,
it'll happen.
We've been running really, really good for the first couple weeks here. I mean, obviously the Joe Burrow calf sounds like he's going to be okay. You've had some stuff that in training camp has popped up here and there, more from a real football perspective with, was it Ramsey or who was it with the Dolphins that ended up, with the Dolphins that ended up getting dinged up. So he'll be out till December, but like, we haven't had that thing that's going to shift the board in best ball. It's felt pretty stagnant where it's like, other than a Tank Dell, who's now moved up, all of the rookie quarterbacks were terrible this last weekend, so they're moving down. I'm just kind of waiting for that domino to fall to really like add some kind of layer of game theory to the entire fray. We haven't had anything like last couple of years. That seems to happen every preseason.
And it'll be in training camp though. That's what it won't be in a game. It'll be training camp, like a Dobbins situation. But the rookies have stunk. People are overreacting massively on everybody already. Shit, Kenny Gainwell's going to be going in the 5th round by the time this show is over. But anyway, let's talk it's crazy, man.
Just give me 0 of that. I don't know. I don't know.
Nobody's out there going like, maybe they just don't care because he's familiar with the team already. Yeah. And they don't, it's
Swift didn't play for him last. Well, what are we doing here?
I know, again, dude. I know. It's crazy.
It's wild.
But hey, we're happy you guys are here. Thank you for indulging us in a little bit of football talk. Let us just get it out of our system. It took a couple minutes. It's over now. That's it. Everybody in the comments bitching and crying. Kidding. Nobody did at all. Everyone gets it, man. Everyone knows. But hey, we already got 58 thumbs up. Thanks, guys. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so yet. Atone for your sins here, coming off the weekend on a Monday afternoon, talking a little baseball. Subscribe to the channel. That stuff, believe it or not, goes a very long way for us. Combat that YouTube algorithm, you know what I mean? And you guys go a long way in doing that for us. So thank you. But you ready to dive into this?
Let's go.
And shout out to Chris Williams, as always, gifted another 5. So he just rolls them in every single show. If you got one, a stochastic membership here on YouTube from Chris, make sure to shout him out and say thank you. All right. Bobby B's. Yeah, I got you, man. I hear you. All right. Louis, I'm not getting into that Oprah. I tweeted that this morning, man. I'm not getting, I want to so bad, but I won't. You can look at the
Oprah tweet.
Yeah. Twitter is just grifter central now.
Really
nobody likes a conspiracy theory like me, but now everything is a conspiracy theory to the point where you've even got me going, this stuff is bananas. All right, we can't. Let's see. We got time at the end of the show.
Oh my God.
All right. So I want to get your overview here just to kind of lay the foundation, and then we'll get into these games. We got plenty of time, 8 games, but some good pitching, man, and then some really bad pitching. If you look at the implied totals on this slate, I think this is a good way to kind of just zoom out and look at what we've got. You have a 7+ run total for Arizona. Atlanta at 5.6, surprise, surprise. Cardinals at 5.4 in a good matchup. The Mets at 5.2, Texas at 5. Then look at these: Yankees, Giants, Royals, Angels, Oakland. All of them 3.8 or lower. So the pretty big dichotomy there in like the big time totals, the low totals, and it shows in the pitchers that we've got going today.
Well, I find this to be one of my favorite Monday, like shorter slates, if you will. Again, 8 games, decent enough in terms of size, but like we have pitching options at the top. We have pitching options in the mid-range. We have a cheap pitcher in Miles Michaelis at 7K who's pulling the most ownership out of any of them. There are stacks that I'm targeting against good pitchers. There are stacks that I think are just so expensive, looking at you, Atlanta, that make it very difficult. And there's a case to be made for them against a Clark Schmidt. There's a case to be made against them and to try to make Clark Schmidt a thing. It is just a fantastic slate top to bottom. I think you are talking about very fine margins in terms of where the pitching ownership ends up landing, because I do think there's a couple of guys, Scherzer's one, that I think gets steamed up a little bit more. But then from a stack perspective, you laid it out brilliantly, where it's just Arizona. They're at the top by a landslide, and we currently have them underowned. I mean, Coors Field, Arizona, starting to get the riffraff of the Emmanuel Riveras out of there, getting some cheap guys, Kennedy expected to be in that lineup. It's a really, really fun slate.
It really is. You know what else is fun? Jorge coming in from the clouds and gifting 50 memberships here. He's back, baby.
Let's go. 50?
50. Yeah, it's like $150 right
I'll
there.
teach you how to stunt, man. Yeah, we could do some 50, 450.
Hey, thank you, man. You're the man. Say thank you to Jorge. Great stuff. All right. Let's talk about it. Pittsburgh and New York Mets. Some stellar pitching on this one. Whenever you have a 9.5 run total at like Citi Field, I know it's August, but still, Carlos Carrasco, Quinn Priester, there's nothing about this one that's going to get you inspired from a pitching perspective. We can definitely talk bats. Maybe you've got some, you and I have talked over the past week about some pitchers that are low owned and cheap, and no one looks at them, and everyone's looking at another high owned cheap pitcher that's not particularly good with no strikeout stuff. So there's always ways to kind of work around that, but it's hard to feel good about either of these guys today.
Yeah, I hate that I'm going to be rostering like the likes of a Brady Singer, and I'm going to have some Clark Schmidt, even though I'm pretty positive Atlanta smashes him. It's just a range of outcomes thing. We've identified some really good off the wall pitching, but in this one, there's no chance that I'm touching a Quinn Priester or a Carlos Carrasco. I mean, Quinn Priester over the course of the season, striking out righties a little bit more to 20.4% clip, 14.8% here to lefties. You get the normal lefties here for the Mets, even if they necessarily shouldn't be in this lineup. I guess Brandon Nimmo's been fighting some injury stuff. Makes no sense that he'd be continuing to lead off playing left field for them, but here we are. Quinn Priester's terrible. On the other side of this one, Carrasco, 47% hard hit percentage, 516 expected slugging. This is basically bats or bust.
It is. Now, when it comes to bats or bust, again, not the best pitcher or not the best hitter's park, but with Carrasco and Quinn Priester, there's certainly something to be said here about, hey, these bats could pop off. It wouldn't be a big shock. Also, when you factor in the value score that you've got on these Pittsburgh bats, how do you look at these Pittsburgh bets? Do you think they fit in maybe a build where you're going too expensive pitchers, or are you fading them today?
I think as a 5-man stack, it's really hard for me to want to roster them at this kind of ownership. We've got them as the second most popular stack, the highest value percentage by quite a ways on this stack or on this slate. But as a 5-man stack, you are running into a ton of ownership, 12% ownership share. There's a little bit of negative leverage, not as much as you're running into a St. Louis against JP Sears, who I find to be more of a serviceable pitcher, definitely than that of Carrasco. You get the Brian Reynolds, Cabrian Hayes, Jack Sawinski, Henry Davis, a highly touted first number 1 pick, actually, in the draft. I just think the whole back of that lineup, Lovier Peguero, he's been somebody who's popped quite a bit in Sims. I don't expect him to today for me as I'm finishing everything out, but Jack Sawinski, I'm basically playing him and Brian Reynolds in right around where the field's got them. But as a 5-man stack, I just think there's a lot of other places. That's kind of what's fun about this slate on an 8-gamer. There's no question that the best value team is Pittsburgh, but in tournaments, in large field tournaments, I think there's enough going on where we can wait a little bit later. We can wait till the evening window, see how these Pittsburgh bats perform, and kind of identify some value where we have 2 games in Baltimore, San Diego, Tampa Bay, San Francisco that have some cheap bats in addition to some expensive guys. But the cheap ones especially, I think could really, really be interesting against like a Grayson Rodriguez from San Diego, and then Tampa Bay going up against San Francisco in that bullpen situation.
The Yankees in Atlanta, unless you want to talk Mets bats here a little bit.
It's fine. Francisco Lindor from a positional eligibility. He's always a decent enough roster there at the shortstop position. 5,100 on DK today. You're talking about an opportunity cost relatively non-existent because Seager is really expensive. Bobby Witt, a lot of these shortstops that he's competing against, whether it's Arizona, they're going to have Perdomo, who I don't really think he's somebody that in Coors Field I'm all that worried about in terms of like him going out and beating me. Is 6 homers on the season, doesn't hit for a lot of power. He's kind of got the same game no matter what ballpark you drop him into. It is still Coors Field, but I expect the ownership to be higher than is warranted there when I'm playing 3 max and single entry type stuff. But the Mets, the regular guys, Francisco Alvarez at the catcher position, batting 5th, Daniel Vogelbach and Pete Alonso, you're making a decision there at first on how you want to put that stack together. But going up against Quinn Priester, maybe he ends up being something, but so far this season, 440 expected slugging, I just don't see it.
It's funny looking at ownership and pitchers. I don't want to say that it's flat per se, but you also don't have one of those like 50% owned pitchers today. It's Miles Michaelis at the top at 29%. It's going to be like a JP Sears or Patrick Sandoval at the same price that ends up being the guy, or like a Brady Singer against Seattle at 11% that ends up being the guy.
I hope so. That would be awesome. Mainly because Miles Michaelis, this is just a matchup thing. It is a 7K Miles Michaelis with a 16.5% K rate who just shows up, gets dropped out of a plane and gets to face the Oakland Athletics, who 25.2% K rate on the season against righties. I mean, it's 3rd highest in baseball, but it's still Miles Michaelis out there. It's a price meets just the matchup. That's it.
Exactly. So we're talking about Clark Schmidt and Max Fried. I mean, Schmidt not getting much ownership at all. It's a tough matchup. It's the Atlanta Braves. They go out there and rain down hell upon their opponents. Most times they face him. And, there's so much talent stacked throughout the entirety of this order. Are you getting to any Clark Schmidt just as like a contrarian play?
Yep.
Okay.
I hate it.
What about 12% max free? Because we know the Yankees have struggled against righties. They're not as bad against lefties. It's in a park. It's going to be hot. You like max free at that price? Seems kind of pricey.
So it's pricey. It's also a question of what that pitch count's going to look like. He went up to 79 pitches after 72 in the start before it. The Atlanta Braves have visions of grandeur. They're aiming for a title. They're not going to push him out there for 90, 95 pitches, I would expect. So 85 pitches. Is he capable? Yeah, he's definitely capable. Cubs, he had 8 strikeouts in 72 pitches, just was mowing them down. There are definitely strikeouts available here in this Yankees lineup, no doubt about it. At the same time that there's a ton of power. So it comes down to just opportunity cost. You only have 8 games, but you do have Max Scherzer and Tyler Glasnow there at the top. You also have a Logan Gilbert facing Kansas City. We know what those strikeouts can look like. It's hard for me to talk myself into a crazy amount of Max Fried just for leverage purposes when I know 85 pitches is his ceiling, and then Scherzer, Glasnow, Gilbert. I don't expect anything less than 95, 100 as long as they got it going. So for me, I have a sprinkle of him in 150, but nothing that's going to get remotely close to double digits.
So I guess it's time to talk about Atlanta bats, because on one hand, it's the Atlanta bats and they're, always live to pop off and be the number one stack. On the other hand, you're paying for them and you're paying a premium on them for good reason. Clark Schmidt on the season against righties, 273 x WOBA, 148 x ISO. Those aren't bad numbers at all. Matter of fact, they're pretty good. Against lefties, 373 x WOBA, 180 x ISO. So the power numbers still aren't that bad, but it is the Braves. They are expensive. Do you play this differently? Do you get to them, or do you just kind of look elsewhere on a slate that has a decent amount of good batting options?
So for me, the one thing I'm just going to be conscious of here as I'm going to the Sims tool and as I'm building out my lineups, Miles Michaelis with the Braves, that's going to be kind of the way a lot of people piece it together. And even that gets to put some salary constraints on what your lineups look like. I'm getting myself to some Sean Manaea. I know he's negatively leveraged, but at 5,600, he does a lot for my lineups in a way where I'm not going to roster a Chris Flexen. I'm going to get to a little bit of JP Sears. And then also, I bet Atlanta -1.5. In most scenarios, I think the win probability is just a lot higher than what books have for +105 on the run line here at -105. But I do have some Clark Schmidt interest in DFS. He's got a 26.3% K rate against righties on the season. And you look at the top of this lineup, the thing that stands out is Michael Harris going from the 9-hole to the 2-hole for the first time all season long. That was a pretty sharp move by Atlanta to kind of combat that, but they still roll out 5 righties here in this spot. That's the spot where they were up in New York the other night. I don't factor in travel. I have no idea how to do shit like that, but I do know that there are at least some cases where hot and humid in New York last night, you fly in, the Yankees got there nice and early into Atlanta, and well, you could just run into a spot where Clark Schmidt, they're traveling the night before, he's set to go. This lineup at least sets up well where I can talk myself into more K potential against them, as opposed to some team that would be rolling out 6, 7, 8 lefties here, where I think Clark Schmidt would be in a load of trouble, considering he has just an 18.3% K rate against them on the season, giving up a lot more power, 214 ISO against lefties as well, as opposed to the 165 ISO against righties. So Clark Schmidt, I know it's brutal, but he is 1% on a slate where we are looking for something to get different, something to add to the fray for our Arizona exposure. And for me, that's going to be a double-digit exposure to Clark Schmidt.
What's his K rate versus righties?
Pull that back up here. Just X'd out of him. Against righties on the season, 26.3% K rate. That is not nothing.
No, it's not at all.
And at 148 expected ISO. So he's keeping them in check in terms of power against righties as well, as opposed to a 180 expected ISO against lefties. So again, Atlanta, they did a smart thing. They didn't keep Michael Harris, a lefty, one of their better lefties, buried in the 9-hole for no reason whatsoever today. They moved him up. That sucks. I was kind of hoping to see him in the 9-hole for the terms of exposure to Clark Schmidt. But I repeat, I do think Atlanta still goes out and wallops him because Acuna, Riley, d'Arnaud, Ozuna, these are above average righties. These aren't your run-of-the-mill righties that Clark Schmidt's mainly beating up on, but it's still showing out in the numbers that he definitely is giving up a lot more to lefties and, well, as you might expect.
Anything else from this game worth discussing?
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Judge is always interesting. However, he's been better against righties over the course of the last couple of years. Even, yeah, it's just a phenomenon there. I don't know. He just hits everybody pretty well. It's not exactly like he's bad against lefties either. Max Fried, we have 2 starts of sample size for him here. I also saw a stat that the Yankees haven't won a series against any team but the Royals since the beginning of July, which is just an insane fact. They've been playing some pretty bad baseball, and I know Aaron Judge hasn't been MVP quality stuff. He's been out for a while then too, but the numbers are still bearing him out as a pretty damn good one-off. You could do worse on an 8-game slate than being above the field on Aaron Judge.
All right. Yo, how about this? Brian Durkee says, got the lineup generator last Monday, play single entry every night, and have won or doubled my money on all but 2 nights. The effing tool works, man.
Dude, that's so awesome. Yeah, it's fantastic stuff. I mean, the Sims tool is adding an element to DFS that has existed for a while, but nobody had access to. And I think that's what's so fun about it now for me too. It's like, what the hell was I doing for the last couple of years as I was building things out in Cruncher and worried about all of these like small things? Being able to sim 5,000 lineups, 10,000 lineups in, mere seconds, like legitimately 30 seconds and it's done. I can't believe how easy it is to utilize. And now I hope people are finding as much success as him. It's been fantastic.
Well, he said there was a lineup generator.
Oh, lineup generator it was. Sorry. I'm a great listener.
Yeah, but the lineup generator's simming all those lineups behind the scenes for you.
Right.
And throwing out the bad ones. It's giving you plus EV lineups anyway. You know what I mean? It's actually a very similar concept.
Well, I know Neil, who I just saw in the chat. Neil, he's used the lineup generator. I think he binked the $4, and I think he finished second another day too within the last month and a half. And he's just crediting it to the lineup generator. Click, saving the best lineups that we have when we sim it out for you and giving them to you. That seems fun too.
And it's not just, it's like, you can see how chalky every lineup is that you get. You can see the ownership, right? How chalky or contrarian, but you're also seeing the optimal projection for it. So you're balancing that. Once you find that perfect balance to it, it becomes really great. Look, you can set your stack types. You can discard the lineups you don't like, save the ones you like, upload them straight to CSV, lock and swap players. Although, as always, I suggest not going wild with that because then you're making plus EV lineups, minus EV lineups if you're getting too wild. It's optimized for your phone as well. It's awesome, man. It's $4.48 for the first week. The price is going up on that too. I'm pretty sure.
Lock and swap it.
Yeah, pretty sure it's going up. And I say it seriously. So if you're trying to get in the door now, and you see all the screenshots that we put up, the reviews and everything, and you're like, let me just check this out. It's $4.48, less than $4.50 for my first week. Links in the description and in chat. It really is the best tool, not just for low stakes players, but for people that might not have a ton of time or just aren't building great lineups right now and want to get better lineups. The lineup generator will do that for you, hands down, no question about it. And you look at the endorsements from people in chat. I love seeing it, man.
Josh has been on a nice run too, and then he just comes in third persons himself. Guy's been on an absolute heater of epic proportions. I love it. It's almost like he's good with data or something.
Yeah. Those antisocial types usually are.
Just those curmudgeons in North Carolina. Just
Oakland and St. Louis. JP Sears. He has been on a heater though. JP Sears, Miles Michaelis. All right, I don't want to look. We got to get through 8 games here, so we'll try and condense some of this. But I do think this game is worth spending some time on. I just don't think we need to go crazy with Miles Michaelis analysis. It's like, okay, do you want to pay for the guy that has a 16% strikeout rate and is also in a fantastic matchup, right? Kind of a catch-22 there. Is also 30% owned by a little bit, the highest owned pitcher on the slate, or do you want to look elsewhere and do something different?
This is just like probably the most disgusting thing because I was kind of going through some of the numbers for his last 60 days here specifically. Miles Michaelis has seen a drastic improvement to his K rate against lefties in the course of the last few starts. 25% K rate over the course of 3-start sample size. I'm feeling like Miles Michaelis, it's hard to call him good chalk when you look at his just overall numbers, 16.5% K rate. 283 expected batting average, does limit barrels to a certain extent, sitting right at 7.9%, 39.8% hard hit percentage. And then you get the matchup against Oakland. But for me, almost every single time in these kind of scenarios where you get this mid-range value saver type pitcher that people are just going to because it feels comfortable against Oakland, I'm just going to take Oakland. I feel far more confident in playing the Oakland bats, going straight up against the most popular pitcher. And again, the data bears this out where Miles Mikolas, 14% top 2 percentage compared to 30% ownership. He's he's the most negatively leveraged pitcher on this slate by a mile. So if people are feeling this comfortable with a guy who I don't think the upside is there, like it is for obviously a Tyler Glasnow, Max Scherzer, but even some of these other options around him, like Brady Singer on the other side of 7,900 there for him against Seattle. I feel pretty good about Brady Singer at his current ownership at 10.4%. I'm much happier to embrace guys like that in the 7K range than one who's just being clicked on because of the specific matchup and really nothing else.
All right. So, okay, then let's do this. In this game, what would your favorite pieces be? Would it Oakland stacks, Mikolas, JP Sears against St. Louis at his price point, St. Louis bats? Of this game, if you're looking at it, in context to the entire slate, what are your favorite pieces here?
Yeah, so St. Louis is probably my favorite piece of this entire game, the St. Louis bats, that being. I just think it's a lineup that's underperformed all season long, but now you get Tommy Edman leading off here, Goldschmidt, Arenado, Contreras. Those are three pretty darn good righties, right in order there. I don't think they're going to go exactly slept on. And this is a team that I think in our last update was the third highest that we were looking at in terms of ownership, 9.7% ownership share coming in on them. We've got a pretty low stack score, and they are the most negatively leveraged team on this slate. But I think there's ways to mix them into lineups against JP Sears. And he's been a better pitcher than I think people recognize him for. He does have a 12.7% barrel percentage, which can hurt against some righties. That'll definitely bring it to the table with Arenado and Goldschmidt. But 458 expected slugging, 330 xWOB. In addition to those bad numbers, a 38% hard hit percentage and a 5.5% walk rate. You can get by with that. I don't think there's a ton of upside with him with his K rate, 22.4% here against a St. Louis team that at the top of this lineup does not strike out. Everybody sub 23% in terms of K rate. Nolan Gorman, Tyler O'Neill, that's kind of the guys you've got to be picking it up on. And then Luken Baker, new addition here to this team as well. I think it's an all right spot to maybe have a couple shares of him, but the priority for me, definitely St. Louis bats, then Oakland bats, then Miles Mikolas. I'm going to be way under the field.
Okay. Well, we still got 5 games to go here, and then you're talking Angels in Texas. Patrick Sandoval, not a bad pitcher. Tough matchup, though. Max Scherzer on the other side of this game. So, Max Scherzer, 28% owned. I really thought that I thought Glasnow was going to be higher owned than Scherzer
Me too.
today. Right?
Yep.
I mean,
yep.
Phenomenal park. 35% K rate versus lefties, 33 versus righties. So he can strike out both sides of the plate as good as anyone in the league. San Francisco has some weapons, but they strike out a decent amount. Anyway, we'll get to that game. But I talked about it on the strategy show with Matt Bellman today. Yeah, I actually thought Glasnow would be the highest owned pitcher on the slate. Instead, it's Mikolas followed by Max Scherzer. What are you doing with Mad Max today against the Angels?
Yeah, I'm still going to play him, but I'm kind of the same mind as you, where I'm a little bit surprised to see Tyler Glasnow coming in with the lower ownership between the two of them. We all know Mad Max can eat up righties. I mean, a 32.5% K rate against them, just 22.5% against lefties, though. And these lefties, Moniak's been overachieving. Shohei Ohtani, he's pretty good at baseball. Moustakas has had a pretty resurgent year. And then from a catcher perspective, Matt Tice, not the worst guy in this projected lineup, but the 4 righties are not exactly chopped liver in Brandon Drury, CJ Cron, Hunter Renfroe, and Randall Grichuk. They're all in terms of estimation. If you just go through expected slugging, you go by pretty much any metric, they're average to above average righties. Maybe not CJ Cron over the course of this year, but over a longer sample size, I would expect him to be. I just like Tyler Glasnow's spot more. I'm getting way more of him. That's the guy that I have the most ownership going towards on this slate as of right now. Maybe something changes, but I do think it's just a really good spot for Max Scherzer against those righties specifically, but they're not bad. And then the lefties, they bring a lot of pop to the table for a guy who's routinely had some fly ball exposure, given up solo home runs. So I'm not going out of my way to stacking the Angels by any means, but Scherzer, I mean, this isn't remotely comparable to what I'm looking at for Tyler Glasnow today. I've got him for 4 fantasy points higher on DraftKings.
Yeah, it's a really good spot, especially if he's going to be, owned by less than a quarter of the field. I think that could change though, for sure. Before lock, like you said, I definitely think it could. But do you have any interest in Sandoval on the other side?
If he falls into a couple lineups, so be it. It's a decent enough spot here. Obviously, Josh Young's still on the shelf, so that's useful. But a 20.4% K rate against righties, he's actually striking out them at a higher clip than he is some of these lefties. You're going to get Jankowski, Seager, Lau. They're going to still find some ways because, I mean, over the course of this season, you just kind of look at this interesting split he's had. Patrick Sandoval, 148 expected ISO against righties, a 0.09. What is that? Yeah. It's under a 1 expected ISO against lefties. So pretty weird to see that. I mean, he's been crushing some of these lefties. I'm not sure exactly what Texas is doing with the configuration of their lineup, but I mean, best available, they're putting their best guys here at the top, it would seem. But yeah, I'm going to have like maybe a handful of lineups with him, but there's no way that he's going to be a priority for me on this slate. Oh, there we go. I had the wrong projected that was pulled up in my sheet. Simeon, Seager, Lau. Okay, it's the normal lineup that we get with Robbie Grossman batting 7th instead of 6th. So cool. JP Martinez. I don't even know who that is. I have to update that again. But Patrick Sandoval, no way that he's a priority on this slate. But again, there's only so many limited options that you have that are going to be sub 8K. And you want to be playing some Coors Fields bats. You want to be playing some of those expensive Cardinals I talked about. So if he falls into some lineups, so be it.
All right. I get it. It's one where we haven't gotten to Coors yet and has 11.5 run total. Most of that going to the Arizona Diamondbacks, minus 218 road favorites. Coors used to be a lot crazier when the Rockies could actually hit at home. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's different this year. It really is. It wasn't early in the season because we're like, how bad can it actually be? And then you had the trade deadline, and now like the Rocket. What's their implied total at home today against Merrill Kelly?
It 4.6. 4.6. There you go.
That is not high.
We have it at 5 for our purposes.
Okay.
In the top stacks tool.
Point remains though.
No, 100%. And Chris Bryant can't stay healthy, even though him getting hit on the hand with a pitch, that doesn't exactly go against him. A lot of people would break their hands in those scenarios, but I mean, getting rid of Grichuk, getting rid of Crone, having him on the shelf there all season long. Brendan Rodgers just kind of getting back into the fray, even though he hasn't been good over the course of the season. I do like the power of like a Nolan Jones, Ryan McMahon, but totally with you. Colorado, not a normal Colorado lineup.
Yeah, we'll get there. First, let's talk about Seattle and Kansas City. Hit that thumbs up too. We're at 154 already. Thanks, guys. Only asked once at the beginning of the show. Some people are just good people, Eric. I've come to believe that. Our producer Jordan Klein is constantly talking. He's a nihilist, constantly talking about how the world and life is pointless and how everyone is terrible. And I'm just.
Are we talking about him or Ben Raza? Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, Ben Raza's out here just. You know what? A meteor isn't the worst thing that could ever happen.
Oh yeah. But then I'll go into the strategy show, I'll hop into the room before it starts. I'll be like, hey, man, how you doing? Good morning. And he goes, life is pointless. I just go, oh, my God, how do you live that way? Life is meaningless. Nothing means anything. So
we need to get him like a Brazzers subscription or something. We need some joy in your life.
I'm sure he probably's got a nice Brazzers subscription. At the very least, he's got a login at X Videos.
From his aunt.
By the way, I'm joking. Jordan's one of the best people I know.
He drove up to my place to help me, take a look at everything, getting ready to put my new studio together tomorrow. This is my last ever show from the Holiday Inn Express, which is kind of crazy to think about.
Exciting stuff, dude. It's exciting stuff. Yeah. I'm happy for you.
Thank you. Jordan Klein, confirmed good person sometimes.
Oh, yeah. He put Jordan that. Jordan's always in a good mood. Jordan's always in a good mood.
Oh, dude, no, like I'm fine. No, it's chill. I'm fine. Yeah. Dude, you want Zinbro? Dude, bro, chill. DBC in the chat, friends.
Jordan and I get workouts in and shit, we hit each other up and stuff. Be like, hey, good job, pal. You're doing a great job today. And he said, hey, thanks, man. That means a lot. You know what I mean? It's a good life. All right. Let's talk about, it doesn't go like that. Quite like that.
I was just going to let you keep going. It sounded
said, don't be
very romantic.
Don't be a pussy and get out there and work out. So I don't want to. Seattle and Kansas City.
Sounded like Johnny Manziel at the beginning of the doc. Seen that yet?
I didn't see it. I don't know if I want to. I heard it's interesting now.
He said that in Texas, everybody plays football in Texas unless you're a pussy or you don't you're not good at it. Those are the only two reasons that you wouldn't play football in Texas.
I mean, probably true, just given the way the parents are out there with when we have time, we'll have to talk about that Michael Orr thing. Turns out they were real scumbags.
What in the world? That came out of nowhere. Sandra Bullock, get ready for a statement. Let's go.
Yeah. It's funny too, because when I think about that, I don't think of the real parents. I think of Sandra Bullock. Like she's I hate that bitch now.
She has an Oscar because of that bitch.
I know. I mean, it was a good
wild.
Movie.
It was, yeah.
All right. Seattle and Kansas City. Let's talk about Seattle. This is a pretty interesting game for a couple of reasons. Like, one, there's Brady Singer, who's, by all means kind of average. Is he someone that we should be getting to at 11% ownership, 12% top two probability, $7,900? And then Logan Gilbert on the other side. Good strikeout matchup. This guy works efficiently. The Royals have the lowest walk rate in the league versus right-handed pitching. So he could get deep into this game, rack up some strikeouts. Pitching's interesting here, but at his price point specifically, $9,700, and then Brady Singer being so close to Miles Michaelis, you're not seeing either of them be super popular, but both of them are owned.
God, I'm playing a lot of this game, and I'm starting with the pitchers. I'm overweight to Logan Gilbert, and I am way overweight to Brady Singer. As you go through some of his numbers against righties on the season, he's got a 340 BABIP, which we expect to come down a little bit there. It's kind of strange, though, with a 147 expected ISO. He's been pretty good in that regard. But against lefties, K rate goes up to 20.5%. He's got a different kind of pitch mix that he's putting together that, he saw a lot more success last year. He had a great year, expected a lot for him coming into this year. And now starting to find a little bit of form here over the course of his last 30. The K rate has gone up 23.3% K rate against righties, 24.1% against lefties in that sample size. That is a sample size of 3.5, 3 starts. There we are. So Brady Singer, I think he is a very interesting piece against Seattle here in this spot. They got done losing a series there to Baltimore, going on the road here to KC. I don't love this lineup by any means. I do like the pickup of they ended up getting Dominic Canzone from Arizona. That looks like a great trade for them in the aftermath of how bad Seattle's closer has been for Arizona. But in terms of DFS today, Brady Singer, I am rolling the dice. He's my punt du jour sub 8K.
All right. Hey, when it comes to this, would you say punt du jour sub 8K? I like that.
Yeah, it just sounded fancy.
No, it's good. It's nice. I can appreciate it.
I know I miss Adam because he would be so much more elegant than me from time to time. He
eloquent.
Eloquent. Thank you. I love that you also are my vocabulary coach. What's the one thing I wanted to fashion
myself a linguist. What were you going to say?
No, there's the one phrase that you always correct everybody with. What is that? It's like I can't think of it off the top of my head. I only do it because it is by far the douchiest thing anybody could do. It's like on a live show, correct somebody on what they're saying. I don't remember. It's Leviosa, not Leviosa.
Yeah, I still pronounce plenty of names wrong though. But the bats in this game, Kansas City's not exactly a home run happy park either. No. So no, it's not in Seattle, which is, suppresses pretty much everything. But do you like any bats from either side?
So you say that, but Kauffman Stadium over the course of a 3-year rolling average over on Savant, we're talking about the 6th highest park factor for run creation. Yeah, it's terrible for home runs. 81st. Okay. It is a cavern for home runs. Yeah, you're 100% correct. In terms of triples, it plays up as the 3rd highest ballpark behind Coors and Detroit. And again, Detroit, another cavern. So more space, more opportunity to make that work. But even for doubles, 5th in doubles over the course of the last 3 years, 104th. So that'd be 4th in terms of singles. So run creation still kind of there for Kauffman. And then you get the humidity, you get the heat, you get all of that great stuff in August. Not great to live in, but great to target for DFS bats.
Is it the chomping at the bit one?
That is the one.
Somebody, dude, this is why we have the best chat out there.
Incredible.
Because Corey mentioned it. The funny thing is it goes both ways. But I would always say champing at the bit because people would correct me on it. And I'd go, hey, pal, go take it to the Google and see what happens. Yeah.
Point one, Lofty 1, random bystander 0.
Again, the douchiest thing is to say it like that in 2023, but it's fun.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, no, this game's actually a good game especially from a game theory perspective, because like nothing is super high owned. So yeah, pretty interesting.
Yeah, Seattle has a little bit of negative leverage, but I'm curious if that ends up maintaining. Again, I talked about teams with value pieces that aren't Pittsburgh. This is the one that I'm kind of talking about going up against Singer with Marlowe, Canzone, Moore. Those are all 3 bats in the outfield, sub 3,500. You get Rojas, who, again, he wasn't very good for Arizona over the course of this season, but, out of a 9-hole hitter with second base and third base eligibility, just fine by me. You have to pick between Ty France and Ford there at the catcher position, at the first base position. And then a catcher, you get Cal Raleigh, 4,500. Outside of Julio Rodriguez, there's nobody that's that expensive or cost prohibitive on Seattle against Brady Singer, who all of the reasons that I said that I'm going to be overweight to him, he is still giving up crazy power over the course of this season, north of a 50% hard hit percentage. He's going to be pitching in Kauffman, where run creation has obviously been up, sub 20% K rate on the season, even if it's been up his last few starts. I don't know. It feels like a game where I'm just going to have a ton of everything.
All right. Well, Arizona and Colorado, here we go. Merrill Kelly getting some ownership today. He left last game with cramps, but I think everyone just basically anticipated him starting this anyway, assuming he was good to go. 17% ownership. That's how much Coors Field has changed for the Rockies specifically, over the last year or two, is that opposing pitchers, not even the elite of the elite, are getting 17%. Meanwhile, Arizona has a 27% top stack probability on a slate with 16 teams. Insane. We actually have them positively leveraged. I don't remember the last time. Okay. I don't remember the last time in our top stacks tool that I've seen a team with a 22 stack score.
It's pretty insane.
22 stack score. By the way, 50% not off the lineup, just off the lineup generator, but all of our stochastic plus platinum tools. Like, if you wanted to do a week of baseball or a month or a week or a month of every sport, that includes all of our Mac Pajeski's preseason tools and projections, which have just been dominating because the guy is a savant when it comes to that. Baseball, football, MMA, PGA, NASCAR, everything, 50% off. Link in the description. You'll see it, 50% off stochastic plus platinum. If you're wondering where these references are coming from the tools, but they are popping more than I've seen in a while for a big slate for any team in the top stacks tool.
I was going to add, I had to pull an Adam there. I apologize. I was uploading something. Twitter/X. Is anybody else having issues uploading videos here of late? It just feels like this place is falling apart.
It's really not, though. I think people want it to.
I don't want it to.
It's exactly the same. I uploaded a 10-minute video on my phone yesterday, and it took 3 minutes on my phone.
Okay, well, I suck. So there's that.
20 minutes. It's a
20-minute.
I know for a fact that Greg hates Elon Musk so much that he would be happy if he woke up one morning and it was gone.
Greg hates a lot of things. But let's be serious. Out of anybody here in content, the person who hates Twitter/X the absolute most, Eitan Shander, and there's not a close second. That man. I love every time he's like, this only got 648 eyeballs. Oh, we didn't end up. Too bad only 4,800 people could decide that this was a good bet today.
The one day he's like, bullshit, man. 600 impressions. I look at it, I'm like, you posted it 2 minutes ago. Just a true vendetta.
He's truly one of one.
He's the best, dude.
There are replaceable pieces. Eton is a one of one human.
He is a unicorn. I saw him on Fox today. He goes on in the morning show all the time, and he was on there. My wife and I, before our daughter gets up, we'll sit there and watch him. And boy, is it good stuff, man. But anyway,
does he ever go on any rants on that?
No, but that'd be the best if he would just talk. You can follow me on X, but it won't make a difference. So don't bother.
That's what I wanted to see. I would love that. That would make Philly. I mean, he could blow up Ron Burgundy style from that.
Big time. So he doesn't need a teleprompter. I tell you that much.
Oh, he does not. Probably needs one.
Can we just hit this Arizona game on all fronts instead of, you know what I mean? Let's just hit this on all fronts to make this easier, because I think it's kind of straightforward.
It is. And that's what I think is kind of the case with a lot of these Coors Field games, where it's kind of like, you have a team with a 7 implied run total. Yeah, we should probably have some interest there if they're not going to be completely jammed by everybody. Now, if you're using the Sims tool, you're getting to Arizona, and the projected lineup, you're looking at Corbin Carroll, Marte. Those guys are going to be expensive, 5.76K. But then you go to the back half of this lineup, there's not a single batter from the projected lineup from 5th until, I guess Perdomo's up there at 4.1K now, but Tommy Pham at 3.8K, Jake McCarthy, he doesn't have a ton of power, but 3.2K, Jace Peterson, Gabriel Moreno, the expected catcher there at 2.5K. He'll be crazy popular. It's a team going up against Chris Flexen, who he's awful. He's no good. He's very bad. And I don't think it's going to go overlooked that he has a 14.6% K rate and a 533 expected slugging with a 9.5% barrel percentage. So for me, it's just, yeah, they're going to be the most popular team on this slate. There's not really a question about it. But there are so many other contrarian things that we've talked about, whether it's finding some value pieces from Seattle instead of Pittsburgh, whether it's playing Brady Singer or Clark Schmidt, finding ways to just get a little bit different and flip those builds where you can still get to a chalky Arizona team doesn't feel like a bad thing. 8-game slate, 7 implied total. Yeah, in baseball, they're going to fail a lot of the time, but I'm going to just play a ton of this team today.
Okay. How much Merrill Kelly are you getting to?
I'm getting to a little bit, but nothing. I mean, it sounded 25.1% K rate going up against Colorado. I think I'm going to still have some Colorado on the other side of this one. It's a terrible lineup in Coors Field, and you know, you can go both sides of it, but I do think Merrill Kelly makes more sense. 24.6% K rate against right-handed pitching for Colorado on the season, 4th highest in baseball. I mean, they're 0.6% away from that of Oakland. And you can obviously see the ballpark is the one that's pulling all the ownership down for Merrill Kelly and pushing it all the way up for Miles Michaelis. So yeah, Merrill Kelly, it's a little bit of an overpay considering the ballpark, considering the situation, even at 8,100, but there's a reason that he's 17.2% owned here at the moment. I'm getting to just a little bit short of that number, but no problem whatsoever against this Colorado team.
All right. We got 2 games to go. Then we'll turn this one over to the live before lock crew. Coming up next, you got Greg Ehrenberg. You got Neil Orfield taking you all the way up till 7 Eastern time. Baltimore and the San Diego Padres. Oh, for those of you guys already on sleeper picks, big time discounted square today. Get your lineups in. Take advantage of that massive plus EV spot. Max Scherzer, they discounted his strikeouts down to 3.5 today. For that card, for that one. That is big. It's 7.5 juiced minus 130 to the over on every other book. So yeah, you're getting 3.5 on the discount for Max Scherzer today. Treated the same way you would with sports books, right? Like whenever, you know, that's why we have Odd Shopper. Whenever there's a good line out there, whenever there's significant difference in odds and it's a plus EV spot, you're hitting it. This is objectively plus EV. They're discounting it almost 60% from 7.5. Really, it's like close to 8 down to 3.5 over at Sleeper. Also, their picks platform has the dynamic pricing, which means that you can, unlike other sites, other platforms, you can take home runs, you know, doubles, triples, stolen bases. When football comes, you're going to be able to take like anytime touchdown props, but it won't just be for your Derrick Henry types. It'll be for guys that are plus 400 and you love them in that game. And now you're getting a 4X multiplier on them. You can 100X your entry up to 8 legs. Very cool format that they've installed over there. I think that'll be the standard going forward in the industry a couple of years from now, is everyone's going to have some version of dynamic pricing because it allows them to expand their offerings so much further than what they have now. Link in the description and chat if you're not there yet. First match deposit bonus 100% up to $100. So you're getting free money there. And then you happen to sign up today, you're getting I won't say a free square on Scherzer, but assume he doesn't get injured and doesn't get completely blown up. 3.5 is a massive discount. And no matter how you look at it, a huge plus EV spot.
It's fantastic. Also, I talked through the last couple times they've had free squares. This is probably the best one out of all of them. Shohei Ohtani went from 7.5 to 5.5, and a lot of people were bitching and moaning because he didn't hit the 6 number in that one. That's going to happen from time to time. But this is discounted from 7.5 to 3.5. And then when you compare the home run odds over there at Sleeper today, comparing it to anything else that is going on in the industry, Matt Olson, just taking the guy who's the most prevalent home run hitter on the entire slate, plus 285 is his best available number with the help of OddsShopper over on FanDuel. That becomes nearly plus 375 when you combine it with this 3.5K prop, which is well north of an 85% expected win percentage. So the combination of those two together, the best place to put $20 on a home run prop, as long as it's a shorted home run prop, we're talking the Matt Olsons, the Austin Rileys of the world, guys like that, is at Sleeper today.
Absolutely. Link in the description and chat. Take your free money on the deposit bonus and take your plus EV square with Max Scherzer. Let's get into this next game. We've got Baltimore and San Diego, Grayson Rodriguez, Yu Darvish. I mentioned the Matt this morning. Rodriguez has been a lot better since he's come up. He's just not getting a ton of strikeouts. But then I looked at his matchups that he's seen since. Just listen to this for a second, okay? So since they recalled him, right, sent him back down, said, hey, fella, go fix some things. So he's been up for 5 starts now. Dodgers, Tampa, Yankees, Toronto, Houston. That is not an easy schedule at all. And the Yankees, which would be the easiest spot, he went 6 1/3, no runs and 3 hits, only 4 strikeouts. But just throwing it out there, like some tough strikeout matchups, some good teams that he's faced. 5 starts since he's been up. That's not easy, man.
No, it's not easy. And then also, this is just another classic split situation where he's got a 24. Well, sorry, that's Yu Darvish I was looking at there. He's got a 20.8% K rate there against righties, 22% against lefties here. You don't get as many lefties, but it is crazy how good he has been over the course of the entire season. That was his last 30 there in those starts. 24.6% on the season against righties, 24.8. So he's striking out both sides about the identical, exact same amount. But against righties, where he has more of those in the lineup today, 188 expected ISO against them on the season, as opposed to a 259 expected ISO against lefties. That was the point that I was getting at there. So you got to get by Soto. Jake Cronenworth's had a horrible year. Trent Grisham, probably the second scariest guy that you're looking at for lefties. But Kim, Tatis, Machado, Bogarts, Campusano, Garrett Cooper. I legitimately think this is a great spot to invest in some contrarian Grayson Rodriguez. You've got about a league average 99 WRC plus here against right-handed pitching for the San Diego Padres. I'm actually buying in this ballpark upgrade for him as well, into Grayson Rodriguez.
Yeah. I know.
Sounds gross, because if you thought at the beginning of the season that you'd be using this guy with his season numbers, 446 expected slugging, 46.9% hard hit percentage against this San Diego lineup, you'd have thought that was insane. But like G-Man Choi, they traded for, and they didn't even put him in the lineup in like the most obvious put him in the lineup spot on planet Earth. Garrett Cooper is DHing today, so maybe they just hate G-Man Choi or something. I don't get it.
Maybe. He's cheap though. He's 6,400. Grayson Rodriguez. Yeah. Yeah, we have almost 1,000 people watching right now on a Monday in August for baseball. That seems pretty good. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah. Cruised over 200 thumbs up. Yeah. You got a good crew here.
Guess we have to talk football at the beginning of shows more often.
Yeah, that's what it is. Maybe if we didn't, we'd have 1,050 watching. No, thanks, guys. Appreciate you for sure. How much do you like Yu Darvish today among all of these other guys that are not similarly priced necessarily, but you've got Michael Scherzer, Glass now all getting 20+%, Logan Gilbert around 20% ownership, Kelly around 17, Darvish coming in at 23%.
Yeah, ballpark's nice for him, no doubt about it. You get the 27.2% K rate that he has against lefties on the season. Only a 129 expected ISO that he's giving up to lefties as well. So he's been suppressing power. He's been striking them out at a nice clip. You know you're going to get Adley Rutschman there in the catcher spot. You then turn it over to Gunnar Henderson. So, I mean, there's a strikeout potential there in the same time that there are opportunities for him to get rocked if he doesn't have his best stuff. It feels like a pretty safe deal, though, here in San Diego tonight to be invested in him. And also, you just look at some of the other pitchers that are garnering far more attention than him. I mean, specifically Glasnow and Scherzer. I mean, Miles Mikolas, he's the cheapest one of them by quite a ways. 8,700 here for Yu Darvish. Yeah, there's a tiny bit of negative leverage, but it's a pitcher that, yeah, there's definitely a case for Baltimore could get after him here. But I still think it's a pitcher that there's a reason. I mean, Baltimore, it's like a value bet at plus 120, plus 125. But from a DFS perspective today, there's no doubt about it. Yu Darvish going to be somebody I'm overweight to.
Talk about bats here, then we'll wrap this one up in the final game. But, you know, it is funny to me that when you look at Grayson Rodriguez over, you know, however many starts he had before they sent him down, he was allowing 2.58 home runs per nine. He has not allowed a home run since he came back up. And again, Dodgers, Yankees, Tampa, Toronto, Houston. He's kept the ball in the yard. With that in mind, what do you do with these Padre bats?
I don't have a ton of interest, actually, which is kind of crazy on this slate. I would expect if I were building lineups my normal fashion that I would see this as, hey, I want to get to Juan Soto, lefty, going up against him here. I'd want to get to some contrarian pieces, but this is going to be a like a late night team that I roster a little bit here on the San Diego side. I actually have more interest in Baltimore simply because of where that pricing sits at. But it's a game that, from a bats perspective, contrarian for the sake of being contrarian, not going to be getting to them in any kind of a meaningful way.
All right, let's wrap it up. We already talked a lot about Glasnow. I don't know how much we need to dig into this. I know you like him. He's in a very good spot. We both said we thought he'd be the highest owned pitcher on the slate. I mean, strikes lefties and righties out at 33+%, 7.5 run total here, 3.8 for the Giants. Great pitcher's park. Some strikeouts in this Giants lineup for sure. And then Minaya as the long guy. So go ahead and do this. Pitchers and hitters, so we can turn this over to live before lock. But I think we've mostly covered the important stuff in this game. I'll let you put a bow on it.
Yeah, so Sean Manaea, it's more of a price thing that I'm getting to a little bit of him, but you know what you're running into with San Francisco. They can always hit eject on that at any given point in time. You have had some outings for him now that have been like 1 2/3, 2/3 of an inning. He got up to 61 pitches again here. So again, at 5,600, I can get to a little bit. Obviously, Tampa Bay missing Wander Franco. He's not there for the series, may never play baseball again. Great job, you idiot. But anyway, on the other side, Tyler Glasnow, no doubt about it. He is the guy that I'm getting to the highest on this slate. 35.2% K rate against left-handed pitching, 33.8% K rate against righties. So even if they play the platoon game, which San Francisco loves to, there is an awesome opportunity for Tyler Glasnow to mow down bats. The one thing you got to be careful of, he has a 242 ISO against lefties, 198 expected ISO, though. It's just one of those things where I think in this ballpark, it mitigates a lot of that major risk that I would normally have for a Glasnow. So there you are. Tyler Glasnow, by far my highest owned pitcher.
Hey, you can follow Eric at Ship. I almost did it, dude. I almost did Ship My Money. I've done so many shows with him that
it's fair.
It's odd. Isn't it funny how the brain works though? It's automatic. Like it's just, we'll get there. At Eric Lindquist. I got it first to start the show though. So
you crush it.
We're batting 500 if you ask me.
I'll take his bankroll tonight.
What's that?
I'll take his bankroll for tonight.
Yeah, wouldn't hurt.
I'm maxing the 3. It'll be fun. We'll have fun.
If you wanted to take his bankroll, you'd have to go and ask the strippers if you can borrow some, because I'm not sure how much is left after he's been off for a week. I do wonder. I hope he's enjoying himself. I'm sure he's living it up. Me at Laffy_D on Twitter, LOUGHY_D. Shout out to Jordan Klein, the happiest man we know. We love him for producing this show. Greg Ehrenberg, Neil Orfield coming up next. And appreciate you guys hanging out. It's been a fun show. Thanks for being in chat and making this a good one. Peace. Yo, it's that time of week again. Stochastic Hall of Fame. Time to induct all of you fine people into the Stochastic Hall of Fame. Give away some free months of Stochastic Plus Platinum. Well, $120 value there. And all you got to do to get involved in the action, get your free month, get here up on the board so we can do the bragging for you. Download the Stochastic Avatar at stochastic.com/avatar. Use it wherever it is you play. DraftKings, FanDuel, doesn't matter. And then finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more. Doesn't matter if it's the quarter arcade, the dollar, or something big. Tweet your wins with the screenshot to us at Stochastic HOF. When you do, you'll get that free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum. You're getting the Hall of Fame. Let's get to it for this week. Kicking it off with John Bryan. Took it home. Finally. Thank you guys for all that you do. $1,000. There you go. Solo shot. 1K to first. John taking it down with the Stochastic Avatar. And Colby Evans. Shout out to the man, Matt Gajeski. This is true. He's the preseason pioneer. We all know that. Matty G, your preseason projections are a must. Every single season. Find them over at stochastic.com, by the way. Thank you for your hard work and dedication to the deep dive that is the NFL preseason. There's still an edge. Congrats, Colby. You love to see it, man. $1,000. Little preseason win there. Hey, preseason money's pretty big right now. And then our own CEO, Tom Kennedy, $50,000 and $5,000 on the same day. MLB DFS comeback is complete. Quit playing MLB a few years back. Loved projections and game theory, but couldn't compete with the software guys and their sims. So we set out to level the field and elevate sports over software with Stochastic Sims. Never had so much fun playing DFS. Congrats, Tom. CEO taking down 55K. How about Ron? He's got a $1,000 win. Hall of Fame, baby. Lock me in. Also, rocking the Stochastic Avatar. See how easy this is? Congrats, Ron. Standing Fern. Getting that bankroll for the NFL season. Great time to do so. Huge thanks to the lineup generator. Such an awesome tool. And then we've got our own Josh Engelman, the absolute best way to wake up. Fell asleep 15 minutes before the Muncie home run. This freak can fall asleep when he's sweating 50K. But Josh takes home 50K. Big shout out to our boy and my co-host, Josh Engelman. And Forrest, to close this one out, just snuck into the top 3 using the tools, $600 to TH 1,800, $600 win in the four-seamer. Congrats to all of you guys. Remember, download the Stochastic profile picture at stochastic.com/avatar. Use it wherever it is you play. Tweet your wins to us at Stochastic HOF. Get that free month, $120 value. Get in the Hall of Fame, and we'll catch you back here next week for the next one. Peace.
Said to her, why would I ever use a robe? I don't know anybody who uses a robe. And
That's so comfortable.
never in my life had a robe even come up, and then it just happens to be there right then.
I wear it like literally every day.
Interesting. You two must be in cahoots in some way.
Yeah.
What is happening, everybody? Hope you all had a great weekend. And now it's Monday, time for Live Before Lock here on the Stochastic YouTube channel. So as you come in, the only thing I'm going to ask of you guys to do, if you could be so kind, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, because it's only going to take you 5 seconds of your time, and maybe even less than 5 seconds. And it does help us out a whole bunch. We appreciate it. So if you could click those couple of buttons, I'm sure a lot of you are subscribed. But if by chance you aren't, subscribe and also like the video, because today, myself, Neil Orfield, we're going to be breaking down the MLB slate in full. Big slate, lots of teams playing. We're sponsored by Sleep. We're going to tell you about how you can make some money there. How was your weekend, Neil? And tell people about your robe as well. That's going to have to be cued into this conversation in some way.
All right, my weekend was great. I posted last night that I went to, so it was my birthday present was tickets to Nathaniel Rateliff concert at Surly Brewing last night. It was a little bit rainy, but honestly didn't really factor in all that much. So it was a great concert. One of the better concerts I've ever been to. Like they played, I like, most of their songs, and they play them like they don't like. A lot of bands like kind of like mess with the way they sing and stuff during live concerts, and they didn't do that at all. They just sang it like the classic, like the way I love. So that was a lot of fun. The robe conversation. So Greg's bringing that up because
but one sec also before, because we do have to segment this out a little bit.
Okay,
if you guys have not gone to Neil's Twitter page at PlayerQDFS, he participated in the whitest event I've ever seen in my entire life yesterday. Like whatever was going on, there's people like playing the tambourine. There's nothing but white people in the crowd, all of them clapping off beat. It's one of the most insane things I've ever seen. It was wildly entertaining. No lie, I probably watched that video that you posted yesterday 50 times. However many views you have on that video, half of them are for me, because every time I would watch it, I couldn't believe like I would find a new person who was being even whiter than the last person I'd looked at. So that was wildly entertaining to me. It was the least diversity I've ever seen in anything in my entire life. So that does that more or less encompass the experience?
Yeah, I would love to tell you that it was like, oh, it was just like the little segment of the crowd that I showed. I can't remember a single person of color that I saw at that concert last night. I tried to bring my friend Jeremy, who is Filipino. I invited him because my wife was going to bail briefly. Yeah, exactly. They were like, sorry, not this guy. No, he couldn't make it. It was a last minute thing that my wife tried to bail, and I was like, I invited a few friends, none of them could make it. My wife ended up coming with me, and it was a lot of fun. But yeah, I almost brought the only person of color to the Nathaniel Rateliff concert. It was a very, very white crowd, which not really a huge surprise. I would say I like folky kind of music. It's typically going to be very white.
So, and we'll talk about your robe in a second as well, but I'd highly encourage people, go to Neil's Twitter page at PlayerQDFS, follow him, and then look at the video. And I really want you to fixate on the guy in the black shirt and the black hat who was in front of Neil at the concert, who in a span of 3 seconds claps off beat, starts fist bumping off beat, and then he starts head bobbing and dancing also off beat. It's one of the more majestic things that I've seen in the last few days on Twitter. And then as for the robe also, we're about to start the show, and Neil goes, oh, crap, my robe is on the wall. I have to take it down. Apparently,
Jordan has yelled at me in the past and told me I need to move that off my door so it's not in the screen.
Yeah, I think it should have stayed personally if I was the one making the production choice around here. Robe God? Are we getting away from the flannel God? Are you the robe God now?
Yeah, so Greg was asking, he was like, do you ever actually wear a robe? And the answer is yes. I wear a robe literally every day. I wear it when I wake up in the morning. I put it on at night, like late at night. I just like to sit comfortably in my robe. I don't understand why anybody would not wear a robe. They're so comfortable. Like, it's just so much more comfortable than regular clothes. You air them out a little bit. It's really nice. I highly recommend robes. I've got a winter robe and a summer robe. I actually had my winter robe up there just now because I was cleaning my room and threw it back up there. But yeah, I've got a light robe for the summer. I've got a heavy robe for the winter. Just could not recommend robes enough.
What's a light robe versus the heavy robe? Is it like actually
like the material? Yeah. It's like cotton versus I don't even know what the material, but yeah, it's much heavier. Like it's thicker, like it's a thicker material for wearing when it's cold out.
I just can't believe the things that go on over in Minnesota. That place might as well be Narnia. I don't know. This is like a different universe you guys live in over there. Absolutely insane. Anyway, guys, go check out Neil's Twitter and all that. And we have to make sure to answer. Ryan Rennebaum told us that he left a super chat during last show. And of course, because Eric was on the show, people leave super chats. Eric's too big for super chats. He just refuses to answer them. So we're going to answer Ryan Rennebaum's super chat right now, which is, he wants to know what we make of 5-man Cardinal stacks for today. So Ryan Rennebaum wants to know if we like 5-man Cardinal stacks in large field tournaments. And I am going to look through some of my lineups and also look at the Cardinals, who are projected for a fair amount of ownership today. They're expected to be the 4th most popular ownership on the DK slate over on FanDuel, which is where Ryan plays. They're projected for 14.6% ownership. In cash games, I think this is a pretty decent looking team in terms of points per value dollar for you to be looking at there, Ryan. But since I know you play on FanDuel, right around 15% ownership, that's too much for me for the Cardinals. I think that's the team that you want to be underweight to the field to over on FanDuel. They have a decent matchup at home against JP Sears, going up against that Oakland A's, who also have a terrible bullpen. Just too much ownership for me, though. We have them with 7.4% chance to be the top scoring team on the slate with 14.6% ownership. So Ryan, I would not be playing them in large field tournaments. Do you have anything else to add to that, Neil?
No, I don't think that I would either on FanDuel. I mean, they're going a little bit overowned on both sites. Yeah, no, they would not be my number one. I actually didn't hear what you were saying, but I know you're talking about playing the St. Louis in a single entry on FanDuel. Yeah, I don't think that they would be the number one team I would go to. Do you want to give an alternative, Greg? I missed what the actual super chat was.
Yeah,
I
don't
find
see it in. Well, let me see if I actually go to the. Yeah, here it is. Ryan Rennebaum wants to know thoughts on the Cards as a 5-man large field DK GPP. So one thing I realized that Ryan usually asks us FanDuel questions, if I'm not mistaken, or I might be mixing up with Mr. Cool Cam actually. My bad. Well, anyway, Ryan did ask us about DraftKings Cardinals. I also view them as being overowned. They're not quite as overowned as they are on FanDuel, but it's a team that I'm underweight to the field to in my current build. I have them in. Let's see, how many Cardinal stacks do I have? I have 2.7% Cardinal stacks right now. They're projected for around 10% ownership. So it's a team I'm well underweight to.
Yeah, I have 6% Cardinal stacks. I mean, I have 3 full Cardinal stacks. I'm only playing 50 lineups today, so I have 6%, a little bit underweight to the field on DraftKings, and on FanDuel they're even more overowned. So yeah, I'd be hesitant to play them as my only lineup.
Yeah, and then also because you asked what should the alternative be. It's good. Any question we're getting today, we're asking about stacks. I'm probably going to lean on the Arizona Diamondbacks as my answer. We have them being very popular today, but not popular enough when we have them projected for nearly 30% chance to be the top scoring team on the slate. So I'm going to play a bunch of Diamondbacks. That's my most roster team by a mile. Is it the same case for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I set my cap on Diamondback exposure at 30%. I got to 30%.
All right. So let's go ahead and start talking about some of the pitchers, and they'll also want to answer really quickly. I saw some people in the chat asking about weather concerns. Not on this slate. There's no games that I'm taking out due to weather, lowering ownership. Nothing I really see as being problematic. So all things good to go as far as I'm concerned when it comes to the weather today. But let's go ahead and look at some of these pitchers today, Neil, where we have 2 pay-up options on the slate, and both of them fairly similar in ownership. Max Scherzer, 28%. Tyler Glasnow, 25%. The only 2 pitchers on DraftKings that are priced north of 10K, both for mid 20% ownership right now. Between the 2 of them, do you have a preference? Do you like both of them equally? Do you like neither of them? What are you doing with the pay-up options, Max Scherzer and Tyler Glasnow?
I don't honestly have a strong personal preference. They both look like they're getting about the ownership that they should be getting. So I guess I lean slightly towards Scherzer. He does have higher odds of being a top 2 pitcher. I guess like currently we have slight positive leverage on Scherzer, slight negative leverage on Glasnow. We've got Scherzer at 28% ownership, 29% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. Glasnow, 25% ownership, 23% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. Of course, those numbers are so close that it could easily flip. So yeah, slight preference for Scherzer, and I'm getting to a lot more Scherzer. I set my pitcher cap at 40%. I got to 40% Scherzer in my most recent crunch. I got to only 20% Glasnow, which I'm guessing that's going to change as I'm going to continue to crunch throughout the show. But currently, I have double the Scherzer that I have of Glasnow. But I don't actually like him twice as much as Glasnow. I think they're fairly similar plays.
Yeah, it's actually somebody in chat had asked about when some of the data was going to be updated in the lineup generator. And I said, as soon as we get the next ownership update, no lie, refresh my page. And then it came out right as I was bringing that up. So we are right now getting fresh ownership, rerunning some lineups based on all of the recent ownership we have. But at least as far as my last run went, like you, I'm getting to more of Max Scherzer than I'm getting to Tyler Glasnow. I have Scherzer currently as my most rostered pitcher, I'm fairly sure. And yeah, Max Scherzer is in right around 40% of my lineups, my most rostered pitcher on the entire slate. He's going to be popular, but I think it's very, very warranted. I like paying up for Scherzer. I don't think it's all that hard to pay up for pitching today. We mentioned the Arizona Diamondbacks in a great spot. They're going to be really popular, but still, I think it's a team that warrants even more ownership than they're getting. And considering their price points, pretty easy to get to them and pay up for pitching. Scherzer is going to be my guy on the high end. So Scherzer over Glasnow in cash games, though. Would you play both Scherzer and Glasnow together on DraftKings, or is there a cheap pitch you also might want to mix in? My inclination is pay up for the 2 studs.
Yeah, so I haven't tried to do. Can you pay up for the 2 studs and still get to the Diamondbacks? I guess would be my question. If you can, then yeah, I would probably just pay up for the 2 studs, because you probably want, at least 3 or 4 Diamondbacks, I would think, in cash also. But I guess we got Kyle Lewis in the lineup in the 5-hole, who's only 2,300. So you probably can play both studs and play a number of Diamondbacks. So yeah, I would probably just pay up for both.
Yeah, there's a bunch of hitters in the Diamondbacks lineup. So to be clear, the studs of the D-backs are expensive. Corbin Carroll, Ketel Marte, Christian Walker. But then you got, Gurriel's 4,500. That's a reasonable price tag. Jace Peterson's 3,700. You mentioned Kyle Lewis is 2,300. You got Gabriel Moreno, who I think is the best catching option on the slate. He is 2,500. It's not really a difficult team to stack. And considering the point in time we are at the season where a lot of teams play, some cheaper hitters in their lineup, I do find it pretty easy to have some of these lineups that jam in Diamondbacks. You mix in some value bats, you pay up for the stud pitchers. And that is something that's popping up in a good portion of my lineup. So anyway, Scherzer, Glasnow, I would go with both of them together in cash games. For tournaments, I have more exposure to Scherzer than I do to Glasnow. And some super chats that we got here from our friend Chris Williams, the local Apple man. Chris Williams first says, hit the like button, bring yourself some good karma, which is true. That's how karma is generated, by hitting the thumbs up button on YouTube. And also, there's a brand new YouTube animation when you guys click the thumbs up button. You only get to see when you hit that button. Another thing that we have here from Chris Williams, he also asked us a question. Great show, like always, guys. Really appreciate your great knowledge. For the night slate on DK, can you rank your favorite bats? So let's look at the night slate, Neil. And for our friend Chris Williams, let's see what the top stacks are of the night slate, which...
So it's only 2-gamer.
Yep, just a 2-game slate, and it is the Tampa Bay Rays, San Diego Padres, Baltimore Orioles, San Francisco Giants. So those are your 4 teams to choose from. And by the way, our projected ownership, incredibly flat on the night slate. The most popular team is the Rays, and that's at 25.8% ownership as a team. The least popular team on the night slate is the Giants, and that's a 23.3% ownership. So really spread out. I will say this, based on how spread out our ownership projections are, it seems pretty reasonable to me that you want to pay up for Glasnow, and the lowest priority offense is the Giants. It's just really easy to make that decision when the ownership is so flat. What's your favorite offense? So how are we going to rank these 1 to 4 for Chris?
Yeah, so normally I am inclined to just talk about stacks, and I don't talk about individual bats at all. On a 2-game slate, I'm a little bit more willing to get away from the full 4-man, 5-man, probably still playing at least a 4-man stack somewhere. And it looks like it would probably be the Pods would be my number 1 stack on the main slate, probably followed by the Rays, followed by the Orioles, followed by the Giants, I think is how I would rank them. We have our top 2 projected plays on the slate, on the night slate, are Tatis and Soto. They're highest projected bats overall. Manny Machado not far behind. We've got Arozarena and Yandy Diaz make it in there, as well as 2 of the top projected. And then we also have some value bats we can throw in from the Rays. We have Curtis Mead at third base and Ozlaivis Basabe, our top 2 values on the night slate. So I think you can mix in some nice Pods and Rays stacks. Orioles would probably be next, and then San Francisco for me. Do you see it any differently, Greg?
No, not really. And then also, if I'm just kind of looking at the, stacks as a whole, there are kind of tiers to it when you look at our top stacks tool. And like I said, the ownership is flat. So I go Rays 1, Padres 2, Orioles 3, Giants 4. You could always make a case on some of these small slates to manipulate the ownership. But if there is no real ownership to manipulate and all the teams are owned about the same, and the most popular pitcher is Glasnow at 59%, the least popular pitcher is Minaya at 40%. So I just kind of play it with who you think is going to be the best. And to me, that's Rays, Padres, followed by Orioles, and then Giants. Thank you for the super chat, Chris. We do appreciate it. By the way, something else I want to tell you guys. The absolute easiest way to make money today, the easiest way, Sleeper today is offering an over-under on Max Scherzer at 3.5 strikeouts. 3.5. If you go and look at FanDuel, DraftKings, traditional sports books, his over-under is 7.5 strikeouts, not at Sleeper. 3.5 strikeouts for Max Scherzer, and you guys should be taking advantage of that number. So go ahead, sign up at Sleeper, click on the link below, download the app, and use the promo code Stochastic1. You're going to get a deposit match bonus of up to $100 and a free square on Max Scherzer over 3.5 strikeouts. Go take advantage of it, because that's some of the easiest way you can make money, is just look at some of these promo offers. And that's honestly better value than anything we could tell you in terms of playing DFS on the show, because we could tell you to go play Scherzer in DFS. We think he's a great option. But the over 3.5 is close to a lock. So go take advantage of that over at Sleeper. Getting back to some of the pitchers for tonight, Neil. We talked about Scherzer. We've talked about Tyler Glass now. The next most popular pitchers we have on the slate are, or I should say in the high end, because we'll talk about Miles Michaelis a little bit different when we get to the low end. But we've got guys like Max Fried, projected for 12% ownership, Yu Darvish, 23% ownership, Logan Gilbert at 19% ownership. Of the pitchers who are priced over 8K that are not Scherzer or Glass now, who is it that you are prioritizing?
Yeah, it's a really, really kind of tough one for me. I think probably Gilbert number one for me, followed by Fried because of the low ownership against the Yankees, coming at just 12% ownership. Darvish getting 23% ownership, slight negative leverage there. And then Merrill Kelly also, it's tough. He is getting fairly low ownership, but only a 14% chance of being a top two pitcher. So it would probably be Gilbert, Fried, Darvish, Merrill Kelly for me over 8K. Do you see it any differently?
Yeah, I don't have any interest really in Max Fried. People have been playing him his last couple of starts. Like last one, Fried ended up being super chalky. I don't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but I want to say in some higher stakes tournaments, Fried was nearly 30% owned his last slate pitching against the Pittsburgh Pirates. And what ends up happening, he throws like, what was it, 74 pitches and then comes out of the game. So he's now made 2 starts since recovering from the injured list, and sub 75 pitches in each of those starts. One of them, he worked deeper into the game, but just because he was super efficient. It's not like they were trying to stretch him out at all. And just considering where the Braves are in the standings, they don't really have a ton to play for right now. Just, keep everybody fresh. You don't want anybody to get hurt at this point in the season. At some point, I think they're going to, slowly build up Max Fried, but I don't think they're going to push him to pitch, a ton of innings. And in large field tournaments, especially on a slate of this size, I just don't think there's a realistic ceiling for a guy who's going to be somewhat restricted on his pitch count. So with that in mind, he's not somebody that I really love getting to today. The one I'm getting to the most of right now is Yu Darvish, who's really pitched exceptionally well in the second half of the season. He got off to a little bit of a slow start this year, but if I remember correctly, he also missed part of spring training. So I think some of his slow start might have just been him getting up to speed for the season. I'm going to look at his numbers and do splits here. And by the way, I might end up just being totally shit wrong on this. I'll go look at the numbers and maybe I'm just remembering incorrectly, but I'm fairly sure we've seen Darvish progressively get better and better as the year has gone on, which good, this is the case now that I'm looking at the numbers here. In August, he's pitched 13 innings, not a massive sample size, but still, he has a 1.38 ERA for the month. And overall, since the All-Star break, which accounts for, like 30% of the innings he's pitched this year, he's striking out about a hitter per inning here. He also, in addition to that, has a 2.55 ERA, and all the underlying metrics also look really good for Yu Darvish in the second half compared to some of the earlier stages of the season where we saw him kind of struggle early on in the year, particularly in May where the strikeouts were down a little bit. So Yu Darvish, now that we have seen overall better performances over the last, month and a half or so since the All-Star break, I like getting to Yu Darvish. Also, matchup against the Baltimore Orioles, not ideal, but the price point is nice on him at $8,700. So we're getting him a little bit cheaper than he normally would be. So Darvish is somebody who I'm getting to actually as my second overall most rostered pitcher behind Scherzer.
Yeah, and I said Darvish third for me. I actually have more Darvish than Max Fried by kind of a lot. So he actually, just based on point per dollar, make it into my lineups. I didn't run Sims. I'm just using my old cap of 40% on my pitchers. I only got to 6% Max Fried with that cap, whereas I did get to 40% Darvish. So I should probably amend that, say that I'm actually getting to Darvish second there.
All right. It is. And if you could go ahead and pull up Josh Engelman's tweet, see if you can find a tiers tweet in there. I'm not sure if he did one early this morning or not, because I don't recall if I liked one from Josh or not. I know he was busy earlier in the day. If he did do one, cool, and we could go through that. If not, I'll just read off some of the lineups here that I'm building out because our friend Ace of Spade has asked his DK tiers question. He wants to know who our favorite options are in DK tiers. So let's pull this up and see who it is that we're liking for DK tiers. And once again, thank you very much for the super chat, Ace of Spade. We do appreciate all of your support. One thing that is very notable about the tiers today is that we are able to play a bunch of the Diamondbacks at Coors Field, game we're talking about a lot for, classic DFS contests. And not only can you play them a bunch in tiers, it's not even like they're the tier 1, tier 2 players. So they're going to come up a bunch. We're about to have this conversation. Tier 1, though, we'll start here, Neil. Who is Josh getting to the most in tier 1?
Ronald Acuna, more than 33% of the time for Josh.
Same. It's really hard for it to be Acuna and in a tier and just it not be him. The other option here, you got Olsen, you got Seager, you got Ohtani, but Acuna's just been a fantasy monster this year. So Acuna in tier 1, and then tier 2, you could stack him up here. You go with Austin Riley, who's also from the Braves, so he's who I like in tier 2. Who is Josh getting to in tier 2?
Yes, it was really, really flat for Josh in tier 2, and he had Ozzy Albies in here. This is before he was ruled out, but the top for Josh was Aaron Judge, 20.8%. Austin Riley was at the bottom of the list, but he was just 19.5%. So within 1.3%, everybody in the tier. I'd probably be more inclined to look for stacks rather than just going with Judge, who he has as the highest percent.
Yep, that's how I view it as well. Is there are a bunch of players that are close together here, and just if you were only talking about which player do you think their outcome should be best, you would say, Aaron Judge over Austin Riley. But if we're going with Acuna in tier 1, I think Riley makes sense in tier 2. Now, here's where the fun starts with the Coors Field game and the Arizona Diamondbacks. Tier 3, who does Josh have? I think I might know who the answer is based on what I got in my lineups.
Yeah, Corbin Carroll over 25% for Josh.
Yep, Corbin Carroll, pretty easy in tier 3 for me. Tier 4, what is Josh getting to here? There are no Diamondbacks in tier 4.
Julio Rodriguez.
So tier 4 is the toughest one for me. I think tier 5 is easy. Tier 6 is easy. Tier 1 is easy. Tier 2, just for the correlation, we go with Austin Riley there. Tier 4, though, I'm going to go with Nolan Arenado facing the left-handed pitcher in JP Sears, but you can make a case for Julio Rodriguez. You can make a case for Juan Soto. You can make a case for Pete Alonso. It's a tough one. I'm going to go with Arenado here, but many different ways you could go in tier 4. Tier 5 and tier 6, I think we talk about them together because there are Diamondbacks players that are standing out in both of them. Tier 5, Christian Walker. Tier 6, Lourdes Gurriel, completing out our Diamondback stack.
And that's what Josh has also. He's got those as the top. And by the way, he does have Arenado second in tier 4 as well. So pretty close to what you've got.
All right. So there we go. Thank you very much for the super chat, Ace of Spade. We do appreciate it. But now getting back to talking about the pitchers here, Neil. Is there anyone in the mid-range that you are not getting to? I mentioned for me, I don't really like Max Fried here, but is there anybody in this range that we talked about that you don't like getting to?
Yeah, I mean, I talked about how Fried looks good from a leverage standpoint. He's actually going a little bit under owned, but I'm only getting to 6% Fried. I'm actually only getting to 6% Merrill Kelly as well in Coors. I'm not going to force my way to more Merrill Kelly in Coors. There is some nice correlation there with, we're playing a lot of Diamondbacks bats, so then more likely to get the win for Merrill Kelly if they go off. It's nothing that I'm doing intentionally to get away from Merrill Kelly, but those are the two in this range that I'm not getting to much at all. I'm getting to 40% Darvish, 30% Logan Gilbert, but only 6% each of Fried and Kelly for me. I think those are the only other guys in the mid range, right? There's nobody else I need to look at.
Let's see. Was there anybody else in that range that we did not mention? By the way, Logan Gilbert, I think, is a strong option as well. If we're talking about guys in the price range, the one that I had the most of, I mentioned, was Yu Darvish. The second most for me is Logan Gilbert. Third is Merrill Kelly. And then fourth, Max Fried, not really making it into my lineups. But I'm well underway to the field on Merrill Kelly. It's very rare we see a pitcher who's actually chalk in Coors Field. I understand this Colorado. Chalk I'm using lightly, just sub 20% owned. So it's not like he's crazy popular. But still, when do we see pitchers on a slate of this size nearly 20% owned at Coors Field? It almost never happens. So I'm willing to take my chin, just kind of get away from Merrill Kelly and play some Rocky stacks. Hopefully also he gives up some runs there because I do think that's too much ownership for a Coors Field pitcher. Cheap pitchers though now, Neil. Are there any cheap pitchers that are standing out above the rest to you? And we'll include Miles Mikolas in this conversation as well. He is the most popular pitcher on the entire slate, now projected for nearly 30% ownership on DraftKings. And we'll talk about the FanDuel pitchers after this. But we've got a very popular Miles Mikolas. He's got a great matchup against the Oakland A's. The rub, Miles Mikolas isn't good himself. Mikolas is no good. We know the A's offense is no good. But who is the cheap pitcher you get the most of overall?
Yeah, it is Mikolas for me. Great matchup with the A's. He is kind of chalky. And as you said, he is like mid-teen strikeout rate, like nothing. You're not playing him because of who he is. You're playing him because of the matchup and the price tag. And those both look pretty good for Miles Mikolas. So yeah, I'm currently getting to 38% Miles Mikolas. He is, I think there's a reason that he's chalk. Like it's just, he obviously can fail, but it feels harder in this spot against Oakland. So Miles Mikolas, the one, and then outside of Mikolas, I'm also getting to 16% Grayson Rodriguez. I do like him. It's obviously not the best spot for Rodriguez, but he's cheap enough that I think that he's I'm willing to play some Grayson. Somebody in chat just asked about Grayson Rodriguez. So answering that, yeah, I'm playing some Grayson Rodriguez here. Those are the only two that I'm getting to above 10% of the cheaper guys. Are you playing anybody significantly?
So like I have Michaelis exposure today. I'm underweight to the field. This
Okay.
is so much ownership for a pitcher who sucks.
True.
And doesn't generate strikeouts either. So once again, he's in my portfolio. I have lineups with him. I'm just, somewhere around half of what the field has currently, because let's look at his numbers. He has a 4.2 ERA. That's not terrible. Not great either. He's a 4.87 expected ERA. That's fairly terrible. And then you look at the strikeout numbers for him. He's striking out 16.5% of the hitters he faces this year, which is really terrible for a starting pitcher. So I get the matchup is good, but look at yesterday, for instance. And the last couple of days, like the Oakland A's have been a popular team on some of these slates lately because they've been facing subpar pitching. Yep. But they're facing subpar pitching again today. Like, what's different about Miles Michaelis compared to who was it yesterday? Trevor Williams that was pitching against him, I think.
Yeah, that might be right.
Trevor Williams. Let me go back. I'm fairly sure. Yeah, it was Trevor. Trevor Williams is on the mound for them yesterday. All right, so let's compare Trevor Williams's numbers to Michaelis's numbers. Trevor Williams for the year. And by the way, Trevor Williams made sense as a pitching option as well yesterday, just because the A's were popular and they're terrible. But here are the numbers on the year for Trevor Williams. He's a 5.24 expected ERA. Michaelis expected ERA, like we just said, 4.8. Not massively different. Trevor Williams strikeout rate for the year, 17.1%. Miles Michaelis, just slightly below that, 16.5%. I think these are very, very similar pitchers, Trevor Williams and Miles Michaelis. Just the point to say is I don't understand how Trevor Williams is a pitcher that picks up no ownership yesterday, and the A's are super chalky. And then today, Michaelis is on the mound as almost the same pitcher based on the advanced numbers here. And yet Michaelis is super popular and the A's don't pick up any ownership. I'm just a little confused by that.
Do you think it's because of the rest of what you need? Like if you're trying to play the Diamondbacks, maybe like you need to play cheaper pitchers to get to some of the stud Diamondbacks. So that's maybe pushing up the ownership a little bit. I'm not sure exactly. And it might be just kind of the name too. Like Miles Michaelis has been around a long time. He's had some good seasons throughout the way. So maybe it is a little bit of a name thing for Michaelis. I will say, so I'm getting to a lot of Michaelis. I do think this is the downfall of my classic strategy of my being on a show strategy versus running the Sims, because I would imagine if I ran the Sims, I would get to, obviously similar to what you do. We have similar processes, but probably the Sims are the sharper way of doing things. I'm just getting to him because he is a solid point per dollar option. That's kind of what gets in when you just set a cap on your exposure. The solid point per dollar options often get you to that cap. So yeah, I think it's probably a better play to play less than the field of Michaelis, but I'm also not going to go out of my way to limit it.
Yeah, and I mean, I see people bringing up some points in the chat. Some of them are not terrible, but a lot of it too is people are kind of making assumptions based on not that much. Like, okay, let's be real here. People in here are using the eye test. If you're telling me that you've watched a lot of Trevor Williams and Miles Michaelis starts, I'm calling bullshit on you. People were saying because of the eye test, go watch. You haven't watched tons of innings of Miles Michaelis or Trevor Williams. Maybe you watched him pitch here or there, but I think we just kind of have sometimes biases that aren't based on all that much. Like in terms of the, who's more homer prone. I don't think that would be a bad argument, but Miles Michaelis for his career has an 11.4% home run to fly ball rate. For Trevor Williams, it's 13.2%. It's not massively different. And the bigger point that I'm making here is not that I love Trevor Williams yesterday or I completely hate Miles Michaelis. I just don't really understand why the ownership is as high as it is on Michaelis today. That's really what I'm getting at here. I'm going to be underweight to the field on Michaelis. If he goes out and scores, 30 fantasy points, then, go fuck me, I guess. And I just lose on this slate. Maybe that's what ends up happening today. But I'll be building my lineups a little bit differently. We've got a super chat here from Julio G. He wants to know, how many Sims do you guys and Josh run on a slate? So for me, I build out 10,000 lineups in Fantasy Cruncher. I upload them to the Sims tool, and it runs 40,000 Sims. So that is how many it does.
Yep, same, because we're using the stochastic Sims tool. It's going to run 40,000 for you.
Yep, 40,000 is the number in here. And let's see if we have any questions in Discord. If not, we'll talk about some of our favorite pitchers to get to for cheap that are not Miles Michaelis. And once again, like I said, I'm not outright fading Michaelis. I'm just, like half the exposure that the field has. Got a question here from Hitman J. Hitman J wants to know, what are our thoughts on Brady Singer for a DK single entry. So Brady Singer is somebody who I am overweight to the field too. We'll talk more about some of the contrarian cheap pitchers that we like. But with that in mind, I wouldn't be playing him in single entry. There's other cheap pitchers I prefer, or just pay up for two expensive pitchers as opposed to going to Brady Singer. But Singer's projected for right around 10% ownership right now, and I'm closer to 20% on him. A couple of pitchers that are cheap that are projected for right around 10% ownership that I'm around 20% on, so about double the field, are Brady Singer and Grayson Rodriguez, by the way. So Hitman J, Brady Singer, overweight to him in large field tournaments, not my first option for single entry. Neil, yourself, which cheap options are you getting to that are not Miles Michaelis?
Yeah, so Grayson Rodriguez, I'm getting to a little bit. Getting an error message in Fantasy Cruncher as I'm trying to run a new crunch. But yeah, so I outside of Michaelis, I'm getting to some Grayson Rodriguez. He's the next most that I'm getting to of the cheap guys. I am getting to a little bit of Brady Singer. Currently, I'm right around where the field is on Singer. I'm not like taking a big stand. He looks pretty good in the top pitchers tool, though. We do actually have a little bit of positive leverage on Brady Singer. 11% ownership, 12% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. It's not the best matchup in the world with Seattle. But yeah, I think Singer makes some sense. I have one lineup of Carlos Carrasco currently, and that's it. It's just Rodriguez, Singer, and Carrasco outside of Michaelis for me.
Yeah, so I mentioned before that for my guys, I like Grayson Rodriguez, Brady Singer for large field tournaments. That is where I am gravitating towards. And then as for other cheap pitchers that are picking up ownership today, we've got nobody really of note. Singer's 11%. You got Grayson Rodriguez himself right around 10%, Michaelis 30%. Nobody else that's really picking up any kind of meaningful ownership on the low end. The next most popular one is Sean Manaea, and that's at 7%. So there we go. Not all that much. Oh, Nolan Gorman scratched. So let's see. Gorman was going to be hitting in what spot? Gorman was slated to be the 5 hitter for the Cardinals. So if you guys have Nolan Gorman in your lineups, get him out of there because he is no longer in the lineup. So we'll be waiting on the new lineup that comes across for them. Anything else you want to talk about at pitcher, Neil?
I've seen Sean V bring it up multiple times now that Clark Schmidt is pitching at home in Atlanta for the first time since he's been in the major leagues. It's not something that I'm factoring. If you want to factor in that narrative, go ahead.
I want to, so an actual question here. Is that supposed to be a good thing or a bad thing, and why?
So I think that Sean is saying that it's a good thing that he has 50 friends and family in the stands. I would take it as a good thing. Like if I were going to factor it in, it would be a positive for me that he's pitching at home. I think it's hard to maybe pitcher motivation and concentration is more of a factor than batters. I guess I would be more likely to factor it in for a pitcher than a batter, I would say. To me, it's difficult to quantify, so I'm not going to quantify it. He actually does look good in the top pitchers tool, so I will say that in his favor if you're looking for an actual quantifiable reason to think about playing some Clark Schmidt. Coming in at 1% ownership with a 9% chance of being a top 2 value pitcher and a 9% chance of being a top 2 pitcher overall. So I'm not calling him a crazy play. Really tough matchup with Atlanta. I'm not getting to him naturally, and I'm not going to factor in this narrative. So I'm not playing him, but it would be for me if I were going to factor in, it'd be positive. Do you see it differently?
Yeah, I just don't give a shit.
Like, I mean, that is the real. That's yeah.
To me, so think of it this way, right? When you pitch at any baseball game, you get way more than 50 people show up to see you. Depending what park you're in, it could be upwards of like 50,000 people that pay to see you at the game. Well, what is he trying? What he's going to throw like 5 miles per hour harder because his girlfriend's there or something? They can watch the game on TV.
True.
If they're watching the game on TV, do they try hard? Also, how does he know? Is he working in ticket sales there? We don't know that much about Sean V, other than some stuff about his wife and his personal life. But beyond that, how does he know how many tickets that Clark Schmidt bought for his friends and family?
I don't know. He's got a narratives Discord, I think. Just all they talk about all day is the narrative surrounding baseball players.
He's one. What's funny also? There have been a lot of recent slates where I've liked Clark Schmidt, and Sean will tell us how terrible Clark Schmidt is. Now all of a sudden he's good because he's got like his grandma showing up to the stadium.
I mean, is this a surprise to you? Like, the narrative wasn't there for the last games.
I guess this is true. Let me actually go look at the lineups I have right now. How much Clark Schmidt do I have, if any? All right, so Clark Schmidt is in 1.3% of my lineups right now. Now that I know that he has 50 friends and family going to the game, do you know what my ownership is going to be?
You're going to cut it. You're going to get 0.
It's going to be 1.3%.
Oh,
that's
right. You're not factoring in.
From 1.3% Clark Schmidt to 1.3% Clark Schmidt. That's my change based on that information. I'm a man of data and science. What can we do here? Super chat that we have from Chris Williams. He's confused on the Giants. Is it a bullpen game or is Walker the starting pitcher? Heard Sean Manaea name, but don't see him. So Sean Manaea is expected to be the bulk reliever.
Yep. So it's a bullpen game, but not just like 1 inning at a time. What are we expecting? Like 5 innings from Sean Manaea?
4 or 5, something along those lines.
Yeah.
Something like that. We just got the Giants starting lineup, by the way, as well. And to reiterate for anybody who is just tuning in right now, Nolan Gorman scratched, and the Cardinals massively popular. Second most popular team on FanDuel on the slate. Third most popular team on DraftKings. There's a good chance you have Nolan Gorman in your lineups. If you do, remove him, take him out. Now let's go ahead and look at the FanDuel pitching really quick, and not going to be that much different than what we talked about on DraftKings. But Jordan, if you could do us a favor, start pulling up the lineup generator, because we'll look at some lineups for FanDuel and DraftKings after we look at the FanDuel pitching. And then also we've got some questions in our Discord to go through as well. First here, we have a Max Scherzer is projected for 21% ownership. Tyler Glasnow on FanDuel projected for 11% ownership. Big difference in the ownership on FanDuel compared to DraftKings. So with that in mind, if I'm paying up for one of these pitchers on FanDuel, give me Tyler Glasnow, where we have really similar projections between the two. DraftKings, similar ownership projections. FanDuel, you're getting Glasnow for about half the ownership of Scherzer. So I like that as a pivot in large field tournaments. What do you like on the high end of pitching? Do you like Glasnow? Maybe you like to go to Logan Gilbert, who's sub 10% on. What's standing out the most to you on FanDuel at the high end of pitching?
Yeah, interestingly, that Logan Gilbert actually we have as the top pitcher more frequently than Glasnow. So it would be Gilbert would probably be my favorite, coming in with higher top pitcher odds than Glasnow, just behind Max Scherzer. He's also cheaper than both Glasnow and Scherzer, and coming in at the lowest ownership of the group. So it would be Gilbert number 1 for me on FanDuel. Then it would be Glasnow after Gilbert, followed by Scherzer, Darvish, etc.
Yeah, I don't think that's unreasonable. I was definitely contemplating between Logan Gilbert and Tyler Glasnow, getting some less ownership on Gilbert. You're also getting a $700 saving in salary on Logan Gilbert compared to Tyler Glasnow. I'm going to lean towards Glasnow there, but I do think Logan Gilbert is a good option. If you're going cheap, the field is going to Miles Mikolas. Surprise, surprise. He's actually the most popular pitcher overall on FanDuel, 8K. He's projected for right around 23% ownership. If you're going cheap on FanDuel, do you lean towards Mikolas, or do you look somewhere else, Neil, for cheap?
Yeah, probably. Maybe Grayson Rodriguez is actually cheaper than Mikolas. Mikolas does have significantly better top pitcher odds, though. Like, we have Mikolas at 8% chance of being the top pitcher on FanDuel. Grayson Rodriguez down at 5%. So it'd be hard for me to really pivot. If I'm going that cheap, I'm probably just going to Mikolas against Oakland. You can get the quality start, etc. on FanDuel. So pitching against the worst lineup seems like a good thing. Yeah, it'd probably be Mikolas for me on FanDuel.
It's too much ownership for me. I'm actually most apt to just pay up on FanDuel than go to a cheap pitcher if I absolutely had to pick one, though. I really like the ownerships price points on Tyler Glasnow, Logan Gilbert. If I had to go cheap, I don't really want it to be Grayson Rodriguez either. I think you can make a case for JP Sears just due to leverage. You've got all that ownership going to the Cardinals today. They're going to be 15% owned as a stack over on FanDuel. That kind of makes JP Sears interesting to me in large field tournaments. So I had to pick a pitcher for cheap. That's the way I would go, but I don't feel great about it. I say pay up for pitching on FanDuel. If you want to go crazy and being contrarian in large field tournaments, go to JP Sears. Stack the Diamondbacks, and that's one way to make a very contrarian Diamondback stack.
Wait, is Tommy Pham? Somebody just asked me about what's the deal with Tommy Pham on DraftKings. Is he starting? I think he's just not starting, right?
The starting lineup for the Diamondbacks is Corbin Carroll, Ketel Marte, Lourdes Gurriel, Christian Walker, Kyle Lewis, Chase Peterson, Alec Thomas, Gabriel Moreno, and Geraldo Perdomo.
Yeah. So the answer is we're not playing him because he's not starting.
Yeah. I don't really know. I need more specifics on that. Is this going to be another one of these things where just FanDuel or DraftKings is the wrong lineup posted? Because
maybe.
Did you see when they did it the other day with I don't even know where they got this lineup from. They put in the most random lineup for the Dodgers. It was like 4 of the players. It was like the most wrong starting lineup I've ever seen. I had so many questions from people who are confused. Who's starting for the Dodgers today? Guys, don't go look at DraftKings or FanDuel for your lineups because they're just pulling random shit. It's going to be wrong at least once a week. Don't get your lineup information from there. Go follow a friend like NewsGod on Twitter. Pull some lineups from him, right? He posts all the lineups there. They're also in our Discord. One of the perks being a Stochastic Plus Platinum member, other than being able to ask us questions during the day, you got NewsGod giving us news updates within there, and he'll give you all the starting lineup, the real lineups, not whatever this fake shit is that FanDuel and DraftKings put out. The real deal. It gets posted in our Discord channel, the actual lineups every day. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is that is the deal with Tommy Pham situation. Try refreshing if you have the lineup. Let me double check too. Let's see. The Diamondbacks lineup. I'm going to pull up our Discord really quick right here and just making sure that I have not misspoke in any kind of way. Diamondbacks lineup. Let's see when NewsGod posted it. Yeah, the NewsGod posted it right here from the official Diamondbacks Twitter account. Same one I just read off. So no Tommy Pham in the lineup. All right, let's go ahead and look at the lineups in the lineup generator. Jordan Klein, pull it up, my friend. So is this oh look, he's backtracking now. If you make him do stuff in different order, it confuses him.
I'm responding
We'll start with DraftKings, Jordan, and let's try building contrarian lineups because we're going to get to all of the Diamondbacks in the world. I want to see if we try making contrarian lineups.
We won't. I don't think we're going to get to anything that doesn't have.
Yeah, but maybe if we build
or very little. Yeah,
maybe if we build contrarian lineups. Chris Williams left us a super chat. Last question, I promise. Can I ask what is Sean Manaea's points projection? Only playing the late slate, and my gut tells me he does well tonight. All right, let's see. Sean Manaea, we have him projected for. Let me go to the Giants and see what we have for Sean Manaea. All right. What is our projection on him? All right. So we have Sean Manaea projected for. It would help if I spelled his name correct. He does have a name that's fairly difficult to spell.
He does.
So it took me a second.
We have him 9.85 fantasy points on DraftKings.
All right, there we have it. Because I had originally put in MANE instead of MANAEA. So there we go. Yeah, 9.8 fantasy points for Sean Manaea. Not great. Not great. Although with that said, there's going to be no Wander Franco in the lineup tonight for the Rays. Have you been following the Wander Franco story?
Oh, I've been following. I mean, there's not much to the story at this point, but yes, it's do you think he ever plays another inning of Major League Baseball?
It's hard to, it depends what actually comes of the investigation.
True.
Like there was a lot of, when this happened with Eric Lindquist, for instance, a lot of people said, will he ever do another DFS show? And we said, it depends on what happens with the investigation. Ultimately, what does he get? Slap on the wrist, some community service. He's not allowed within 600 yards of his school, but we let him back on YouTube. So we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see what ends up happening with Wander Franco. Maybe he just gets the Eric Lindquist treatment. We shall see. Anyway, DK lineups that we had built up here. If you guys want to sign up for the lineup generator, sign up using the link below because it's going to get you 50% off the first time you sign up. Less than $5 for lineups built for you. Right in here. Just lineups that are going to be built for you. DraftKings FanDuel, build up to 20 of them. You can upload them directly to the site. So go ahead and check this out, guys. If you're somebody who's struggling with MLB DFS, you need something to hold your hand and just do it for you, lineup generator is the way to go. And also, if you want to check out the player exposures tab, you could hand build some lineups, picking and choosing some of the players that land the most lineups that you guys want to have in your lineups, which for today is a lot of Diamondbacks. Does this surprise you in any way, Neil? Because I can tell you, sure shit doesn't surprise me.
No, it does not. I also do the lineup generator VOD in the afternoon, so I kind of knew. Do we get to 100% stack exposure here, Jordan?
95.
Earlier, okay, that's what I had earlier as well. And that was, I did a mix of lineups. So I was doing contrarian, chalky, all of that. A little bit surprised to see these getting in 95% of contrarian lineups as well. But I guess we're getting different elsewhere with these lineups.
By the way, Eric just texted me. He said, don't say anything else bad about my friend Wander. Him and I are going on vacation to Epstein Island next week. All right. So there's Eric's input. They've got a vacation plan together. No Wander Franco in the lineup for the Rays today or for the foreseeable future. As far as the pitchers we're getting to here, Max Scherzer, Logan Gilbert, very spread out, which is not all that dissimilar from my lineups. The pitcher I have the most of is Scherzer, and that's 40% of them. So 30% here, 30% Logan Gilbert. Nothing too crazy there. Keep scrolling down. I want to see what else we get to. We got to 25% of Yu Darvish, 20% of Brady Singer. We've got Carlos Carrasco in 20% of lineups, Merrill Kelly in 20%. So I'm a little lower on Kelly, but for the most part, a lot of these pitching exposures is very similar to what I got from the Sims tool. Is it also fairly close to what you're getting to, Neil?
Yeah, so full disclosure, I can't actually see the screen right now. So my whole screen, my computer screen went black, and then it came back. And this is the first time this has ever happened where only Zoom now. I can't see you and Jordan, and that means that I can't see the screen that Jordan is sharing. I guess I could do it on my phone. But yeah, I'm getting to.
You're not going blind, are you?
I can see everything except for you guys in Zoom. Like I can see the rest of the Zoom screen. I just literally can't see you guys' screens in Zoom, which is weird for me. I can pull it up, I suppose, on my phone and look at our stream on my phone. But yeah, I can tell you that I got to a ton of the Diamondbacks. All of my top exposed players are the Diamondbacks. Interesting. So Tyler O'Neill, this isn't the top. Okay. But yes, it was like on my first screen. Yeah, same as we see here. Every single Diamondbacks bat was near the top of my screen. Not everybody quite at the top here. I see Emac, clean your glasses, Neil. I can see everything. I swear. I just can't see these guys for some reason. Well, I can see everything except for you and Jordan for some. It's just my Zoom right now. Like I don't know what's going on with it.
Yeah, you just need new glasses prescription. You'll be good.
Okay. Yeah, I'll try the Zoom working glasses prescription. Maybe I need some of those those glasses that Alex wears on stream sometimes, like computer glasses.
So here's what it is. Neil recently turned 50. We know what happens when you get old. You need readers. That's what you need, readers. My dad, or bifocals. The ones, like the if you look up, it's for far sight. If you look down, it's for near sight. I might have that backwards, but what about bifocals?
Maybe bifocals is exactly what I need. Maybe they would allow me to see you guys in Zoom right now.
That's probably the issue. By the way, how bad is your eyesight, and how long have you had glasses for?
Oh man, I don't really know the answer to that. My eyesight is pretty bad. It's been like I've had glasses since middle school. I don't think I started wearing glasses full time until like around 2010. So like when I went to law school, I finally gave in and was like, all right, I'm just gonna wear my glasses. And I never was a contact guy. I hate putting the contacts in. So I just kind of my eyesight wasn't bad enough that I needed glasses until around 2010. And yeah, it's pretty bad at this point. Like my wife puts on my glasses and she's like, oh my God, I can't see anything.
What? Oh, I guess you wouldn't know because you don't have contacts. I was gonna ask what the numbers are on it. I'm pretty shitty eyesight too. I wear contacts though.
Okay. Yeah, I don't like contacts. Can't do it.
All right. Let's go ahead and look at some FanDuel lineups now, Jordan. Let's build out some FanDuel ones. And while we're building those out, let's look at some of the questions that we have in our Discord channel, which once again, one of the perks are being a Stokastic Plus Platinum member, which if you guys want to sign up for any package that we have at stokastic.com, got those links below. They get you 50% off. You get to ask us questions in the Discord channel. Einstein, I'm asking about JP Sears. I like JP Sears in large field tournaments as a contrarian play, more so on FanDuel than DraftKings. And Einstein, I know you're usually asking me about DK. So I don't like him as much for DK. I would call him viable, but really on FanDuel, I think he's a very interesting contrarian pitching option when you have the Cardinals projected for 15% ownership as a team. Way too much ownership on the Cardinals for me. So that's really where I prefer him in large field tournaments. And then Hitman J already asked us about Brady Singer. The other question from Einstein, and he wanted to know, are the Braves the single entry stack today? I mean, for me, I'm building out my final set of lineups. I think I'm still going to end up on the Diamondbacks in single entry. Maybe I'll end up pulling somebody else. I'm just getting to so much of Arizona, though, that's probably going to be the way I end up going. But let's look at it this way, Neil. If you had to play a team in single entry that was not the Diamondbacks, who would it be?
Yeah, I was thinking about that earlier, but I was looking on FanDuel. Let me look on DraftKings if my answer would change.
Yeah, because we had Mr. Cool Cam leave the super chat and asked who he should play.
Yeah,
for single entry on DraftKings, or no, for FanDuel, and I said the Diamondbacks. And yeah, for GK and FanDuel, it's got to be the Diamondbacks for me. If I just look at the set of lineups I just ran through the Sims, so this is the most recent set of 10,000 lineups I uploaded. No lie, like my top. All right, how far down do I have to go? I have to go to like my 36th best lineup to find a stack that isn't the Diamondbacks.
yeah, that's pretty nuts. But if you're dead set on not playing the Diamondbacks, I don't hate playing the Mets against Quinn Priester. Look pretty good. 10% chance of being the top value stack, just 8% ownership, or Texas. It'd be one of those two, I think, for me, if I were going to go Pinter. Although, actually, I guess he brought up Atlanta. Atlanta does have some really nice positive leverage. The only problem is they're playing against Clark Schmidt, who is pitching in Atlanta for the first time in 4 years. So he's gonna complete game shutout.
Without a doubt, it's the only way that it could go there. But let's see. So my best lineup that is, I think actually I'll make a case for this. My best lineup that is not a Diamondback stack is a Colorado Rockies stack. We do have Merrill Kelly picking up some ownership. By the way, I hear what all you guys are about to say. Yes, the Rockies lineup is terrible, especially post-trade deadline. Probably the worst lineup 1 through 9 in baseball. But it's Coors Field, and they're going up against a relatively popular pitcher in Merrill Kelly. I don't mind getting to the Colorado Rockies against the Arizona Diamondbacks as a single entry team if you want to get away from Arizona. How about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So that's something that I think that we could get behind. Other than that, though, I like the Diamondbacks a whole bunch. I'm landing on them in just a shit ton of lineups, as is our lineup generator for FanDuel here. 75 or 80% D-back stacks, Jordan? It was 80%. Yeah, 80% getting to the Mets there, getting to some of the Cardinals. If we go to our player exposures tab, let's see what we have as far as player exposures go. Yeah, Corbin Carroll, 75% of lineups. They're making a 4-man Diamondback stack. These are the 4 Diamondbacks we're getting the most of in the lineup generator. It is Carroll, Corbin Carroll, Ketel Marte, Alec Thomas, Gabriel Moreno. Kind of interesting, Moreno with catcher eligibility pops up there, but super cheap, $2,400. Look at how cheap of D-back stacks you can make on FanDuel. Alec Thomas is $2,800. Gabriel Moreno, $2,400. Kyle Lewis is $2,500. Jace Peterson is $2,900. This is not only the team that's by far expected to score the most runs, they're also very cheap on FanDuel. It's hard to get away from them.
Yeah. Really easy to stack.
Tough to get away from them.
Yeah.
Max Scherzer is a pitcher we're getting the most of at 40%, followed by Miles Michaelis at 25%. And then let's see, what is the other? Logan Gilbert, 15%. So about double the field on Logan Gilbert here. I really do like that as a way to differentiate some of your FanDuel lineups. Go to Logan Gilbert. That was something that Neil had pointed out before. So definitely like that as well. Are you able to see the screen here? If not, I won't ask for your opinion on what's
I can't see the screen right now.
All right. Next show, Neil will get his updated prescription. Then we'll get it all figured out. Next show. For today, though, Neil's got his old prescription. Doesn't let him see as good. But anyway, guys, those are the top lineups from our lineup generator that we just built out. And like I said, if you want to sign up, use the link below. Get access for less than $5 when you sign up for the first time. Let's walk through some of the rest of our stacks, Neil. I don't think we have to talk too much more about the Arizona Diamondbacks. It's a team both you and I made it very clear we like a whole bunch. It's a team I get the most exposure to by a mile on this slate. Who are you getting the most exposure to outside of the Diamondbacks?
So Pittsburgh is currently my number 2 stack. And I think it's just because they are so cheap. They have a 19% chance of being the top value stack on the slate. Coming in at 11% ownership. They only have a 6% chance of being the top stack overall. But man, 19% chance of being the top value stack looks really nice for Pittsburgh. So getting to a lot of Pittsburgh, and the Mets would be the next for me. They just look really good here. I mentioned them as one of the stacks I would consider going to in a single entry on FanDuel. I think the same holds true on DraftKings. They look really good today.
It's funny. I look through my lineups and it's so dominated by the Diamondbacks that I actually have the Diamondbacks are stacked in more than half of my lineups. And then the rest of the teams, I don't have more than 5% of anybody else. So the team I get the next most of is the Mets. and it's right around 5%. So like, I don't really have too many other teams I could look to and tell you guys like, hey, this is the contrarian stack I love today because I don't have one. I'm the chalk donkey at offense today. I'm playing the Diamondbacks.
But
They're
if you
really
don't- I mean-
popular, but our projections indicate they're not nearly popular enough. So
Yeah.
the only thing I'll ask, Neil, and your input on this, should I be playing the Diamondbacks in single entry, or are they going to be so popular that I should consider looking elsewhere?
Yeah, I think I would probably still play them just because of the positive leverage, but it is possible, like in single entry in particular, and given, generally tends to be a sharper crowd, it is possible they get blown up a little bit. I wouldn't hate the idea of playing the Mets in single entry on DraftKings. They're also really cheap, and there are a lot of ways to stack up the Mets. So I wouldn't, like, if somebody told me I really like my lineup and it has the Diamondbacks, I'd be like, yeah, just play that lineup. But I do think that there is at least some concern in single entry that they get overly steamed, and maybe it gets to the point where they would be negatively leveraged. And in that case, I would probably pivot to the Mets. I really think they look good on DraftKings. You got Alvarez in the 5-hole at 3,900, catcher eligible, coming in at projected for 7% ownership. You got Dan Vogelbach projected for just 4% ownership in the 6-hole at 2,700. I think that the Mets look really good. So it'd probably come down to, I'd either just eat the chalk or somewhat chalk and play the Diamondbacks, or I'd get contrarian and play the Mets.
Yeah. And then, by the way, something else also, the contrarian bit, I did end up on some of Carlos Carrasco at super low ownership. Carlos Carrasco projected for 4% ownership. That is one way you could definitely differentiate some of those Diamondback stacks as you go ahead, play a pitcher like Carlos Carrasco, single digit owned, get into someone like Grayson Rodriguez at lower ownership. We talked about him before. Is there anything else you could do with Diamondback stacks to reasonably differentiate them before we go ahead and give out our home run picks for the night?
To differentiate the Diamondbacks, I mean, yeah, Perdomo is just 9% owned. Like, everybody else is getting double-digit ownership. So yeah, I mean, if you play the Diamondbacks and then just get different with your one-offs, I guess that is one thing you could do to get different. Baltimore looking really low owned, and they have some good bats, so they can do it even in a tougher matchup. So yeah, I guess it's tough to really get different playing the Diamondbacks because everybody's double-digit owned except for Perdomo in the 9-hole. But one way to do it is getting different with pitchers and one-offs.
All right, building these lineups, I realize I should probably go ahead and upload them. Something I should do right about.
It's a good idea.
I'm going ahead. I'm looking at the exposures, trying to figure out who I got, and never occurred to me that I should probably overwrite my CSV and actually upload these lineups to DraftKings so I can actually play them tonight, as opposed to just having a dead dummy lineups that are in. Home run time. Let's do some dongs here, Neil. Who is it that you, using all your majesty, your super secret formula for picking home runs, who is it you're picking?
Yeah, I'm going to take Matt Olson. I think that he's going to be vengeful against Clark Schmidt, knowing that Clark Schmidt has just taken so much attention away from the Braves today, pitching at home for the first time. I think Matt Olson's going to come out with a vengeance and hit a home run off Clark Schmidt today. Who do you like?
All right. So I am going to go with a player who I bet on to homer for tonight's slate. It is a Yankee slugger who hits left-handed pitching very well, but it is not Aaron Judge. It is his teammate, Giancarlo Stanton, who, by the way, can be had over on FanDuel at plus 520 to homer tonight. So that is a home run pick that I also posted in Chalkboard. If you guys ever want to check out Chalkboard, totally free to download app. And myself, Lawfoo, post some bets in there. We got Josh posting prize picks cards. So if you ever want more just free content from us, want to ask us questions about betting, go download Chalkboard. That is my home run pick of the day, Giancarlo Stanton. And that is going to do it for us today, guys. If you have not done it yet, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thank you very much for watching. We appreciate all of you. Good luck with all your lineups. We'll see you back here tomorrow night. Peace out.